Or as correct as they're going to fit into this game. Alright, let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go. There's a little bit of a change up from the classical Final Fantasy. The first thing you probably notice is that I'm dashing. That is a very, very appreciated feature. And right now I have to hold the B button to dash, but I am going to go into the menu now that I've done my shopping. And now I get permanent dash, even in dungeons.
One of several reasons why his estimate's about an hour faster than his NES estimate last year. Just faster movement.
Okay, let's see if we get a good top guard. Yes! We have a 1 in 4 chance of the guard walking to the right and blocking us, which happens about 60-70% of the time.
Like all good NPCs.
Yeah, if he blocks us, we can go to the right exit, to the bottom exit. The top exit's the fastest overall. This is the only time you see chocobos in this game. They were not in the NES original. I like to think that they were hunted to extinction for their delicious chocobo burgers, and that's why they only exist in statue form. There's some plot in there. We're going to go rescue this guy's daughter. And if you've seen the NES version, it is exactly the same plot-wise throughout. Just going to take a couple of safety saves as well. These are things that I don't normally do during a regular playthrough, but might as well for marathon safety.
Yeah, the fact that you can save without staying at an inn or using a tent is a bit of a change too.
It is a very nice thing. You can actually save anywhere at all in the game, which I will abuse very heavily, saving like in dungeons right before bosses. Lets me play a lot more aggressively than I would if I had to like do what the NES did, which was only save at very specific points. So right now we're walking up to Temple of Fiends to fight Garland, and I want to get to level 2, but these monsters outside here are not particularly valuable in terms of experience. So we're going to get into Temple of Fiends and hope we get a good battle here. I think one Black Widow should be enough. Nope. Looks like we need another one. The ideal luck is to walk up in here, you get a battle, which gives you 15 experience right off the bat. I think 2 skeletons is probably still not enough. And there's a couple of formations which do give you that amount of experience. So like if I had gotten a ghoul or a creep, it's a 1 battle fight. There's a creep. Now I just need to survive it. This guy is actually tougher than Garland because we're at level 1 right now. Alright, there we go. Here's our level. I'm going to see if I get a strong level up on my red mages. I did not for either of them, and I'll talk a lot about strong level ups in the next little bit. But basically, you notice that there's now a very big disparity in HP between my fighter white mage and the 2 red mages. And that's going to be something critical to look at over the course of the run. There's a lot of randomization in the stats, and HP is one of the biggest. This boss music is new to the remake of the game.
I love it.
The original just had the same music for everything. The remake has the normal battle theme, the boss theme, 2 themes for the fiends, 1 for the male fiends, 1 for the female fiends, and a unique theme for chaos. So you get a lot of really good music. I think they did a really good job overall with the remake. Not just the graphical improvement, but putting new content into the game that really added to the experience. This is a very challenging fight. I'm just holding the A button down.
This is high-tech strats here.
Yeah, when Garland said he was going to knock you down, he meant he was going to knock down your A button.
This is the same strategy I use on the NES, so that has not changed. What has changed is that Garland's got a lot more HP, but he's dead.
The finest knight of all Cornelia, gentlemen.
The finest. We might see that guy again.
No, I don't think we will.
Yeah.
He's gone. You clearly got rid of him.
Yeah, he exploded. That's how hard we hit him. Well, we rescued the princess here, and she has teleport magic, which we're not going to get until way later in the game. It's a really high-level princess. I don't know how she got caught by Garland.
Afforded it, too.
And in the NES version, you could get away, skip the loot, not find out until the end game, but no, they just call you back. It simplifies a lot of the questing where there was multiple parts to the quest, talk to multiple people, and I think they just kind of made it so that you couldn't forget to do like some small important plot elements. All right, this is the first of the inserted cutscenes. There are about, I believe, 4 of them over the course of the game. Just little animated sequences where before they were kind of doing textual explanations of how the story was progressing.
Right. This be a good time for a little donation reading?
Yeah, why don't you get it started?
Yeah, we got a $10 donation from Rulith. No comment, but thank you again for the $10. We have a $30 donation from Bobo Blio. I hope I said that right. Thanks to all the staff and runners for supporting this good cause. And lastly, we have Rory Extra Life.
Hey, Roy.
Hey, Rory.
He gives $15 saying, "Afternoon, everyone here from the most dismal city in Scotland. Good luck to my main man, Gyre, and I hope you represent the second best Final Fantasy 1 80% category to the best of your abilities. And Bob the Nicky for free. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to give you a good old-fashioned race, but flights are expensive when rent is also a factor. We all feel that, buddy. Also, who needs weapons anyway? Certainly not you. Hope you're thirsty because you're going to need a lot of tonics." Donation goes to bare knuckle fist fighting, the biggest, baddest boss in the series.
Yeah, so Chaos has been slightly buffed in this
Just a
version
little
again.
bit.
He's got 20,000 HP instead of the 2,000 he had in the NES version, as well as about doing twice as much damage with his attacks. So we're going to fight him without any weapons. That probably would have been a good idea to have like a black belt or something, but we've already got this party started. Now this is a little bit of an upgrade for the opening title sequence. It's an effect that doesn't really come across in streams necessarily, but you're having a really slowly fade in on the sunrise coming up in here, which appears beautifully on the TVs. I always don't know how it kind of shows up at home, but I like the effect that they put in there. So let's talk a little bit about the Final Fantasy remakes. Last year I did the NES version and the Famicom version. Those are just brutally, brutally hard. And as we've gone further and further in time in the remakes, this was like the 5th remake in the sequence. They've done some things that have made the game slightly easier. They've added in restorative items, things like Phoenix Downs and Ethers, High Potions, stuff that you saw in later Final Fantasy games. They put in, well, a lot of bug fixes. The original game, almost nothing worked. The spells didn't work, the weapons didn't work, the monsters didn't really work.
Some of the stats didn't work.
Some of the stats, like some of the other stats did work.
Most of the spells didn't work.
Yeah, but almost everything here works. And because almost all the things that were broken were disadvantaged to you, it makes the game easier actually to fix the bugs. In compensation, though, they did buff the bosses, so like Soul Garland had like 220 some HP as opposed to his like 80 or 90 he had before. The Fiends have mostly doubled or quadrupled the experience for their original fight of the remake. And then of course we talked about Chaos having 10 times as much experience, or 10 times as much HP.
Hey, I can use a thief now.
Yes. That was the most broken and useless character class in the NES version. It's still not overly great, but
He has been buffed.
he has been buffed.
He gets
He can cast Temper.
well, that too. But the accuracy set is what determines how many hits you can do with physical attacks, and the Thief actually has the highest accuracy growth of all classes. He actually starts off being able to do 2 hits at level 1. So he's actually somewhat useful, and his high speed still actually does make a difference nowadays.
Yeah. Something else to point out, too, is that they did also, quote-unquote, fix the random battle system in the remakes, too, because for the NES version, one of the things that just makes it possible to complete a speedrun at all with any expectation of success is being able to have to completely manipulate the random battles as far as how many of them you get, where you get them, and what the monster formations are, but that's not possible in, I believe, any of the remakes of the game.
Yeah, as far as I know, unfortunately, you can't manipulate them. In this particular version as well, they have an absurdly high encounter rate. I think they realized it was a little bit too high because the PSP remake that came after this actually toned it way back down.
A pirate survived a hit?
They have buffed the pirates.
They don't have 6 HP anymore?
Yeah, they're bosses. You'll see me split up my fighters from the red mages. The red mages that you can see have gotten 2 hits already, so they actually have a higher accuracy stat than the fighter right now. So I'm pairing the fighter up with the white mage to get them killing one pirate, and the red mages can kill them on their own. Every once in a while you get lucky, and if you had like incredibly good luck, you could do it in 2 rounds, but it's almost always going to be a 3-round fight. Now, one other big change is that if you do target an enemy that is dead, it will retarget. It doesn't do that for curative spells, so if you do it on a character that's dead, you just lose the cure. But all of your attacks will retarget, which is extremely nice. I don't have to be as conscientious about who I'm targeting and kind of try to get every last bit of damage in turn. By the way, we just got the only ship in the world. So ocean commerce is ours now.
The rest of the pirates that you fight from here on out just swim.
Yeah, they're just they're just floating around inner tubes.
Well, I can kind of see why he gave us the ship too, just because there's so few places you can actually go with it at this point that he probably just got bored.
Yeah. So right now I'm going to play the 15 puzzle. The 15 puzzle is a way to get extra items in the game, and I use it mostly for money, as well as hopefully we'll get an emergency exit, which requires finishing actually in the 2nd place prize category. So I will do this twice.
How do you do this? These puzzles are impossible.
I am so bad at these.
Let's do it this way.
The fact that you say you have to stop yourself to make sure you come in 2nd place baffles me.
Yeah, I'll actually wait till 45 seconds on the clock for this first playthrough. Where do I want to put this? This gives me enough time for the 2nd playthrough.
I might have like 2 rows done right now.
Okay, remedy and antidote. We'll try again for the emergency exit here.
Yeah, the emergency exit's a consumable item that casts the exit spell, or teleport, I forget what it's exactly called in this version, which just instantly takes you out of a dungeon. And that's really, really, really useful for the speedrun, just because there's a dungeon that coming up in a bit that you would normally have to backtrack out of at one point to get another quest item, and having the emergency exit lets you save several minutes worth of walking and encounters.
Yeah, that would have been nice for me a while back.
All right, do we get it? Elixir. So no emergency exit this run, but I do have a lot of cash from those items that I can sell. And that allowed me to buy a broadsword as well as my temper spells. I get into the church there to reset the enemy position, or the NPC position.
They're enemies.
They're enemies.
Yeah, they're enemies.
He is very clearly an enemy of the Warriors of Light.
Actually, let me go and do the rest of my selling while I'm there. You can sell anything you want at... Don't sell that. Get my broadsword back. Get rid of those eye drops, some of those things that we have picked up. I just need to get 500 gold coming out of there, so that can buy my temper spells, which is one of the most broken things about this game. The temper spell has been fixed, and it will give you a little bit of an increase in attack power. And I say a little bit because it is only like 10 points or so, but it stacks with itself a lot.
Yeah, you just get madder and madder and madder, and then that translates into more pain upon your enemies.
No, he's not getting madder. He's just sharpening that blade a few extra times.
Saga hymns.
So right there, I was just skipping a battle, which was an ambush.
Yeah, saving this game is very fast, just because of how fast it's a cartridge, so there's no load times for the save, and it's just fast. So there's a lot of cases where if he gets into an ambushed by a large group of enemies and he saved recently, it would be significantly faster to just reset.
Yeah, it's only like maybe 10 seconds or so to do the reset, and since you save almost everywhere, that does mean that it's, in a lot of cases, faster to reset than it is to sit through an ambush or to sit through a battle where you might get stun lock or something like that. So right here we're sailing down to Elfland, which will eventually take us to Marsh Cave, and I want to be level 7 before I set off for the cave. I will not get there just through the sailing trip, so we'll do a little bit of grinding there, and I will do my first save scumming of use, where I want to make sure that I get very specific encounters. There's a lot of poisonous monsters around here, as well as in formations that are not worth a lot of experience. Hey, ogres. These guys are what I want to see, especially with a preemptive. They give a lot of experience in gold, so this is one of the most lucrative battles. I can actually go into a zone slightly to the left, which is the next encounter difficulty up, and that will let me get ogres as well as green ogres. They're not called green ogres in this version, but that's what they were called in the original.
There are grogers in our hearts.
Yes.
Yes.
They're the chiefs.
Those wolves are probably the worst battle, just because the wolves have very high agility. There is a very different system for turn order as well as running in the NES version, and those are both heavily influenced by the agility stat now in this version. So monsters actually have an opposed check, and even early game monsters can be relatively difficult to run away from late on. Now you notice that Garrett has about 20 more HP than Frit. That is because Garrett got a strong level up. It's worth about 20 to 25 HP overall. And as you can see, starting at 30, that is a really significant factor. I want to get, hopefully, in the 80s by the time we get to Marsh Cave, so that I can survive maybe one hit from the wizards. That's my first big HP checkpoint.
Another change in the remakes, too, is that the NES version's magic system was kind of based on Dungeons & Dragons, where for every level of spells you got a fixed number of casts. Then the remakes just converted all of the spells into the MP system that pretty much every other Final Fantasy game uses.
It is very much appreciated. I can also get ether items, which will allow me to do spells non-stop. Ooh, okay, so let's see if we can still finish this battle without our white mage. She has the Dia spell, which does damage to all undead monsters. She might survive. Nope.
No.
They really like the white mage. They know what the threat is.
They knew it was coming.
Yeah, these guys can be extremely annoying in large packs because of that paralyze.
Yeah, normally they don't target the back row. It's 50% chance to target the first party member, 25% chance to target the second, and 12.5% for each of the third and fourth.
Ooh. I don't blame you for that one. That's a nasty fight.
The werewolves are actually easier to run away from than the plain wolves, which is why I don't just reset immediately. The yellow wolves, which are the lowest ones, have the highest agility, and the two higher classes of ones are actually easier to get away from. So let's start off, we didn't do this at the beginning, let's do a roll call here. So I'm Jair.
Dragondark.
I'm Poexel.
I'm Ozzy at host.
Thank you, Ozzy. I'll be calling you a couple of times throughout the run, just as we get a few of these grinding sections. There's actually not as many as there were in the NES version. There's this one. We'll do a zombie grind, or a mummy grind, when we get to Northwest Castle. And until the mid-game, I will go through at a very low level for a lot of the dungeons. This is a game which has a little bit more XP and gold for a lot of the monsters. So they were intended to probably get up maybe about double what you've expected from the NES version of the game. They raised the level cap as well. But I will not be taking advantage of that. So you'll see me kind of go through maybe 15, 20 levels below what I am supposed to be doing for a casual playthrough.
It's a fun game. I went ahead and I played this game myself a week ago. Prepare myself for this, and yeah, money is very tight in the early game. And then it's not so tight because later on enemies just give ridiculous amounts.
Yeah, and if you think it's tight, you should play the NES version.
Yeah, they did reduce a lot of the prices of items. You'll see that they're typically like a 20% discount, spells as well as equipment. And that does help out quite a bit.
Yeah, 'cause the first remake of this game that I ever played was the PlayStation version from Final Fantasy Origins, and that actually gave you selectable difficulty, where you could pretty much make it a mostly a reskin of the NES version if you customized it a certain way. Or you could play with kind of reduced HP cost and increased like spell levels and that sort of thing. But then later remakes mostly just kind of defaulted towards the easier difficulty.
I'm good without playing the NES version. Everybody's saying, aren't you glad you're not having to hear all that wonderful poison noise?
I don't know what everybody's complaining about. That was the best donation incentive we could have come up with.
Yes.
They have nerfed the poison noise, sadly, and then nerfed the lava noise and the lava flashing. A lot of things which, if you have the nostalgia for the NES version, you probably are going to always like that version. But for the remakes, this is probably my favorite overall. This is the one, at least for speedrunning, that is not horribly broken. The PSP version, there is a glitch which allows you to put equipment on the wrong slots, and that basically reduces the run down to, you get the glitch, and then you just rush through the rest of the game.
Yeah, like I think the record for that is like an hour and 20 something.
Yeah.
It's
really
it's
short.
really broken and short. Yeah, and the encounter rate overall is lower on PSP. Even if you're playing it glitchless, which would otherwise be pretty much the same as this, it's still faster. Well, the gameplay is faster. The loading times are slower, so I think it works out kind of the same.
Alright, while we're beating up these guys, I'd like to remind everybody that this is RPG Limit Break 2016, and we are based in Salt Lake City. Utah is raising money on... We are raising money on behalf for NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. This is made especially poignant as May is Mental Health Month. Feel free to join the conversation on Twitter using our hashtag Act for Mental Health or hashtag Stigma Free.
This should be the last battle overall.
Is there any particular significance to the tiles you're using for grinding here?
I am just standing right on the left side of the zone line, so I'm walking up and down along the zone line, so I'm staying inside of the higher level zone throughout it.
Okay.
But I could go down south, I could wander west all the way over to Marsh Cave, whatever I wanted to do.
Oh, so you couldn't get ogres if you were closer to Elfland?
I would get the regular ogre combination, so on that zone is where I get the undead fight as well as the green ogres.
Okay.
Which sadly we did not see during that grind section. So I've got a bunch of cash now. I'm going to buy a couple of defensive items for my fighter. This will make him a little bit more beefy, especially for a lot of the physical damage that's going to be coming up in the Marsh Cave. Speaking of Marsh Cave, that's where we're going to see the first time where I cannot avoid poisonous monsters. So a big stack of antidotes. You actually have a much lower chance of being poisoned in this game because NES version had encounter rates that were chance of ambush that were tied to the enemy formation, and a lot of the poisonous monsters were given higher ambush rates, just to mess with you. And so in this version they toned it down so that it is basically the same chance of getting ambushed by poisonous monsters as regular monsters.
Yeah, and sadly the poisonous spell is ridiculously expensive and high level.
Yeah, I would never take advantage of a lot of spells that the monsters use quite frequently. You'll see Poison in particular, and then when we get to Astos, he's got a spell called Death, which was Rub in the original. Works very, very well on your party because you're low level at this point. You don't have a lot of magic defense, but by the time you get the spell, it's almost worthless.
Last one, of course.
That's actually lucky. It's at this point in the game, running away from the Plain Wolves, it probably is, on average, a second round run.
Oh, poison.
Yeah.
Ah, no poison.
However, the other enemies in the formation do bring down the average agility of the enemy formation. So they were a little bit easier to run from since he had the other wolves there with them.
Seeing enemies like ogres and agamas being ran away from always hurts me inside.
Yes. it hurts me a lot too. But
so much experience and money being wasted.
Sadly, we just do not have the time to fight them.
Yeah. Just a reminder to everybody watching, we're currently still a little bit short.
It's the formation I wanted.
We're a little bit short on the bare knuckle chaos incentive, which is where Gyre will be literally fisting fighting the final boss, no weapons equipped.
Yes. Hopefully, hopefully the PayPal issue can be fixed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I woke up this morning to find out the PayPal issues were sadly a thing. We're currently $140 out of $300 for this incentive, so I highly suggest that you start donating and we can make this happen. It'll be great.
So right here I'm going to pick up a broadsword, which is going to be used as a backup weapon for one of my red mages. And that'll let him help out a little bit during the wizard battle. I will put him in second because he will probably survive a wizard hit, whereas Ferret is a little bit low on HP right now.
Yeah, shoutouts to Ferret.
So you'll see me kind of talk about the differences between the two red mages throughout. There are a bunch of these HP targets. The first one is Wizards, the second one is Lich 1, where I want to see about 165 possibly for my red mages, and the final one is Chaos. And one of the red mages is going to be chosen as a sacrifice to Chaos. So Fred and Garrett, you guys are in a competition here.
Yes.
One of you will please me and one of you will not.
I was to say, in Dan we trust.
In Dan we trust. Dan is the name of the red mage that I sacrificed in the NES version. And that one I know which one in advance it's going to be. This one I do not know until much later in the game.
Alright, time for some Pisco Demons.
Okay, we need two of them. That's not two.
That's not two.
These guys will absolutely wreck you at level 7. You're not supposed to be here at like level 12, 15. When you have like Thundara and a lot more HP.
Yeah, and then like in the NES version for a marathon safe route, you would have to grind a lot more in order to just be able to guarantee a win, no matter how many wizards he got. But here, since he can save, manipulate the number of them, that lets him get through here much lower leveled.
These are the guys that made me wish there was a defend command.
Yeah, that would be really nice. Let's see if we survive. Okay. I can tolerate one person dying, which is because I picked up the Phoenix down earlier in the cave. And if I didn't use it there, then I could use it as Astos, who almost certainly will kill somebody.
He loves that rub.
He's a good barbecue chef.
Yes.
Okay, now we just need to do Marsh Cave in reverse. If I gotten 2 emergency exits, which sounds crazy, I could actually have done the second emergency exit here, which would save about a minute and a half. It's not nearly as significant as the one in the Earth Cave.
Oh, we're backtracking. Something I don't think has been explained yet is like why the jobs were chosen for the party in this particular version of the game.
Okay, so we have a fighter. He's good with swords. They do damage.
Lots of it.
In particular, we need to have somebody that can do a lot of damage to bosses. And since we have buffs from our mages, temper, haste, and so on, I really just need one person to stack all the buffs on top of it. It's much more efficient to do that than to split up your buffs among multiple characters. So one fighter, he's going to do all the damage in the late game. 2 red mages for the buffs, and I used to do this with 3 red mages, or 2 red mages and a thief who turns into a ninja, which can also do the buffs. But Chaos, because he's just got so much HP, and he hits so hard, you really have to have a way of surviving that battle. I use the white mage because very late in the game she will get the Hilaga spell, which is pretty much the only thing that keeps up with Chaos. It does like 200 HP recovery to everybody in the party. Chaos will be doing like 300, 350. So you'll barely stay ahead. And the Japanese route actually does something slightly different for a lot of their runs, which is they do 3 red mages, and they try to have the red mages cast Kuraga, kind of like a circle on each other. And that's a much more dangerous approach. So I've actually found out it seems a little bit faster to use the white mage, as well as being much more reliable in the end game. It's slower up until like the last couple of bosses, but then when you can Hilaga in dungeons as well as the recovery, it saves you like 15-20 seconds in a couple of places, plus the chaos battle.
Yeah, and then there's just so much that he's going to be doing throughout the course of this run that's only purpose is to set up the chaos battle too, just because of just how much stronger chaos is in remakes of the game.
I got a quick donation to read off here.
Go for it.
We have a $5 donation from Kubo Kyle saying, Final Fantasy puns for Final Fantasy speed runs, part 4. Alright, I'm ready. What does Squall use when he has chapped lips? Lip ballad.
think we need Percentia here.
He's not here, is he?
No.
Okay, good.
He's here whenever a horrible pun is uttered.
He's here in spirit.
Yeah, so if you get, if you get really bad run luck against these and pretty much any kind of palette swap of them, then that can translate into a stun lock.
Yeah, and Stunlock here is generally not really a danger of dying, especially once I get a little bit of armor from my White Mage. The reason she's dying so much early on is because she's got Cloth. It's one absorb. But once she gets to Melmond, she'll get the Silver Armlet there, and then we really just have Stunlock being a speedrun issue, because you're taking like 1 or 2 damage every single turn, and it could be a minute, could be a minute and a half. You have no idea how long it's going to take you to get out of there.
Yeah, because it's random when paralysis wears off, but they can always just re-up it before you get another turn.
Even casually, when I was doing, I ended up doing saving constantly because I kept getting ambushed by these guys and paralyzing my entire team.
Yeah, they will do that. They are jerks.
Paralysis normally wears off.
Eventually.
It's usually like 3 turns, 2, 3, 4 turns in there. You can get some pretty bad luck and have your fighter decide to stay paralyzed for 7, 10, lots of rounds.
Yeah, I have had that happen on Lich, who has paralyzation on his physical attack. And that's one of the worst ones, because you really need the fighter to come back alive in order to finish off the fight. And it could be, 6 or 10 rounds before that happens.
Yeah, I think you had didn't you have a PB for a while that had a Lich fight that...
I had a Lich fight that went like 10 rounds and then a reset.
And then he killed you after that, too.
What a nice guy.
Normally I don't take a tent here, but I had some extra cash from getting the elixir in the 15 puzzle, and that lets me do extra recovery. So just one more time where I could get my HP and MP back in the early game. And so now Astos. I'm actually going to put the White Mage in the front of the party. She's the least important character for this, and so this is going to be a distraction for Astos casting Death. He's got 50% chance of targeting her, 40% chance of it missing even if he doesn't target her. So we'll see how many deaths in a row he gets off on somebody in the back. My record is 3 times that I had to reset for Astos casting Death. 40% chance. 1.
Everyone gets 1.
Just mocking us with that laugh.
Ha ha ha, you think this is going to be a single segment run? I don't think so.
Has there been a serious attempt at trying to do a run where you don't save and quit?
No. And you'll see why much later in the game as well. So we got lucky, targeted the White Mage, and it missed. So now we just need to run through his HP. So we're going to stack up Tempers in the fighter, and this is where you'll first start seeing the true power of the Temper. The fighter does have a chance of missing here. You'll see his accuracy kind of not being quite enough for Astos at this point in the game. But if he gets 2 hits consistently, it'll be good. Slowra. This is another reason to put the fighter in the back.
Yeah, and there is some kind of inflexibility as far as what order that bosses can use their spells into, so he was pretty much guaranteed to use Death in the first turn, but then never again after that.
Right, each monster has a probability of using physical attacks, special attacks, and magic, and if they use special attacks or magic, it's a fixed order that they do each of those in. So Astos has got a pretty good chance of using magic, and his first spell is always going to be Death.
That's something that's actually completely unchanged from the NES version as far as just how the enemy AI works in that regard.
Yeah, they've swapped around some of the spells and some of the probabilities, but the basic essence of it is exactly the same. Alright, so we've gotten, I believe, up to level 9 on everybody. Didn't check while I was in the menu, but since everybody was alive and we got some good battles in, we should be there. Can we do that right now? Yep. So level 9 is what I need for my red mages to learn the 3rd level spells when we get back to Elfland. The white mage only needs level 8, which is why she can be dead in the Astos fight and it's okay. but the level 3 spells are where you first start seeing things like Fyra, Thundara, Cura, which have all different names in this version, so you'll forgive me if I go back and forth between the NES and the remake names.
Fire 2, Fire 3.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah, part of the nostalgia factor for I think all of us too is just how they had to shorten like everything in this game to fit like a 4-character limit in a lot of cases to make it fit in the NES.
Yeah, the names are almost all from the original Japanese, so they went back and took the much longer names that they had there. The US had to get really creative because you had like the 4 or 6 character limits. And
like
so
I don't even know what the Japanese or remake name is for the 2nd level death spell, but it's just called XXXX in the NES version.
I got a quick plug here for probably some group of people we're all familiar with over the years. The Yeti. The Yeti is this awesome website you can go to, and you can get to choose from 7 amazingly designed T-shirts, and that's the Yeti, YETEE, and you can go theyeti.com/RPG Limit Break. And the best part about all this, for every T-shirt sold, Yeti is going to donate $3 to Nami, and that is a deal you can't argue with. It is amazing.
wonderful cause as well as a wonderful source of laundry.
So I just noticed you never equipped the defensive items you bought for your fighter.
Whatever. There you go.
Yeah.
Just for you.
I thought I'd seen that earlier, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I do that in a lot of runs. It's a really minor upgrade. So you don't get very good defensive items until about halfway through the game. And early game, it's also a pretty big just trade-off because armor has 2 stats to it. There is Absorb, which is how much it subtracts off of the enemy's attacks. So basically, you imagine it's going to roll a particular value and then subtract off exactly that amount for each hit that the Absorb factor has. But then it also has a weight penalty. And the weight penalty is reducing your ability to evade. So early game, there's a lot of armor which is better absorb, but because you're not going to evade as much, you're going to get poisoned more often or paralyzed more often. So it might be better to avoid the special effects and just take more damage, especially since you've got a white mage that can heal you for, so many more times than you have in the NES original. So right now we're in the middle of a quest to do a whole bunch of item swaps to eventually get the Mystic Key. This is Matoya, who basically we got the crown from Marsh Cave, we took the crown to Astos, acquired the Crystal Eye from him, and we're going to take the Crystal Eye back to Matoya, who will give us the herb, this version called the Jolt Tonic. And this old woman has some chests, and in the NES version I rob her because, we're heroes, that's what we do. But in the remakes, it's actually faster to skip them because you can buy items in bulk.
Yes.
I always thought there was like a slight translation thing. Like the Crystal Eye was meant to be Crystal Ball. She looks like a fortune teller to me.
They went back and made some questionable changes, so I do like the herb over the Jolt Tonic, and I definitely like the slab. So I will be calling that the slab when we get it.
The slab.
Yeah. So this is kind of a strategy you'll be seeing fairly often now that he has multi-target attack spells, because he doesn't actually need the experience or money from that particular fight, but if he fails to run away, he can still kill them in 1 round with 2 Thundaras, so basically just goes for that to just give himself a maximum amount of time that fight can take, even with poor run luck.
Yeah, that's why I bought Thundara before heading over here, as well as use the 10 again so I'd have enough MP to cast it. And that means I can now go and exterminate the wolf population, kill all the Saheguins. And it's not because I want the experience, it is, as Puexel said, because if you have to take like 3 or 4 tries to run away, you're losing time versus doing the spell animations. Actually, let me go and do the king first. Notice I appeared on a different side than I entered. You have a consistent location where you're going to exit towns, NES version, you would actually exit the town standing on top of that square. Same thing with stairs. And you notice in this version, they've actually moved you one tile over, so you never are standing on top of an entrance. And that will throw me off in a lot of places where I will just walk right back down the stairs. 'Cause I'm used to holding that direction in the NES version. Elf, in appreciation for waking you up, gives us the magic key, allows us to loot a lot of treasuries, starting with his own. I assume I have permission because he gave it to us, and why would he give it to us if he didn't want us to take all of his stuff? It also allows me to loot the treasury in Northwest Castle, and I have multiple objectives there. I want to get a bunch of cash, but also I want to do a little bit of grinding on the mummies, and that's because, again, I'm looking for a specific HP target when we get to Lich, and this will let me sell that remedy as well. That's probably not really useful. A couple more levels, which means more chances for the red mages to get their strong level ups and hopefully have 165 by the time we get to Lich. He likes to use Blazara as his first magic spell, and that will do between like 150 and 165.
Oh, who's buried there in this version?
Oh, let's find out. There's a couple of tombstones up here. You realize Link in this version. It goes between Link
It's
and
only
Erdrick.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always cracks me up that they take a little shot at the Dragon Quest franchise in the NES version with Here Lies Erdrick.
Yeah, and they changed it again, I believe, into Lodo in another version.
It did Link in the original Japanese. It went to Erdrick in the NES version, and then I believe back to Link in all of the remakes. I don't often check the grade. That's only something you kind of do to show off in marathons like this, but it has no time advantage or RNG manipulation. But if it makes you feel better, we can say we took the trip to the grave to manipulate the RNG for this walk up here.
Alright. Well, it's nice having area of effect spells.
Oh, it is so much nicer.
It's also nice to have your intelligence stat actually affect said area of effect spells.
That is debatable. So one of the many things they changed was intelligence in the original game did nothing, which meant the spells were as good when you bought them as they are in the late game. With the intelligence stat, early on your spells do a lot less damage, so the Thundara and Fire that I just picked up are not nearly as effective as they would be in the original. However, it means that in the late game, especially for casual games, you're going to get a lot of levels. Your mages are going to continue to be good contributors throughout the entire game. NES, they're basically doorstops late game. All they can do is cast a couple of cure spells and absorb hits. Here lies the Power Staff. It's worth 12,345 gold, and that was actually a question in Nintendo Power. When the game first came out, they had a bunch of trivia questions that they wanted you to go find out things about the world. This was before the internet, or you would have easy access to go and get spoilers. So you would go and get a bunch of clues and mail them in on a postcard, get prizes from them. They had another prize, which was taking a picture of Wormek. Hopefully, I really, really hope that we see Wormek. I have done dozens and dozens of playthroughs and have never gotten Wormek in a speedrun. It's completely improbable how unlucky I have been at getting Wormek, and Puexel really, really wants to see him. So, everybody, when we get to that point in the game, I want you to spam Wormek. Tell him how much you want to see him, how much you've missed him. Donate, ask Wormek, donate Wormek for character names. Whatever you need to do to make him show up. I legitimately want to see him.
I will gladly support this endeavor, guys. Come on.
Incoming Wormek for one of my Draken names.
All of your Draken names?
Thank you, High Spirits. Yes, Lodo is in the English Game Boy remixes for this.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was where I was remembering it from.
Interesting. Oh, and then this is a method of grinding that we like to call trap tiles, because that tile it's kind of poorly placed as far as you're meant to have to fight these mummies to get at that chest, but you can just walk around it and hit the chest from the other side. But they don't reset after you fight the battle, so you can just keep stepping on that tile, and it gets an encounter with the same enemies. Although there's a bit of randomness with how many of them there are each time, but it's a really, really efficient way to grind.
Yeah, it's 2 through 5 mummies that I'll see here, equal probabilities of each. So I'm hoping for a lot of these 4 and 5 mummy battles, since it's pretty much the same difficulty and the same amount of resources and time to do them, regardless of how many show up. And if it goes well, we'll get level 12 by the time that I'm done with this grind.
I never realized how great the DS spell was until I actually saw just how many undead enemies are in this game.
Especially early game. NES version, I did a slightly different strategy if you saw the run last year, which was going up to Peninsula Power. And it really depends on how you want to progress through the game. At this point, you can go directly to Earth Cave. And you just have to hope that you get enough HP to survive Lich, or do a lot of rerolls there. You'll end up with like level 12 or 13 at Lich if you go that way. And for NES, because I wanted to get a lot of levels, you know, I wanted to probably be up to like enough to pretty much carry me through the mid or early game. That's a good place if you want to get it to like level 15 or 16. But since I only needed to get a couple levels to give me a better shot at the HP here, Northwest Castle is a more efficient way of doing it.
Yeah, Peninsula Power is a pretty well-known exploit in how random battle, just how the monster formations for random battles work, and that there's zones on the world map that they're tied to, and then there's this one kind of row of tiles where you can gain access to much stronger enemies than you're meant to be able to fight from that area.
Yeah, basically everything in the NES version had squares for what the monster zone lines were like. Does it in this version as well. And there's a couple of tiles that poke up into inappropriately high-level or low-level squares.
Yeah, it's not the only game that does it too. It's kind of a theme in Final Fantasy to have the Peninsula Power in a few games.
Yeah, because I think the Peninsula Power's encounter zone, I believe, draws from near the Bahamut Cave, that set of islands.
It draws from Lufia, or Lufania. That's the last town that you go to in the game.
Oh, okay.
So that's like a really, really high-level zone. You'll see things like zombies and trolls, giants, frostwolves. And what I did in the NES version was manipulate zombies and trolls, since zombies are undead, so just like these mummies, they're weak to fire to and harm to. And trolls happen to also be weak to fire to, which meant that even at very low levels, you could reasonably survive that fight. We're doing decent on our red mages. 120s is in shooting distance of being able to get surviving on Lich, so I'm pretty happy to see that. I have had playthroughs where we get to like Ice Cave and one of the red mages is still at like 110 HP.
They're doing a good job at competing too, as far as who gets to survive chaos too. They're trying this time.
Power Staff's going to fuel a lot of our purchases here. And I really only need to get like 4,000 left over to buy the Silver Armlet Melmon, so I got a ton of cash. I'm going to go up to Cornelia, which has another one of those treasuries. This one has a plot-required item. But since I'm by the town, I can actually buy a couple Phoenix Downs. And even though they added Phoenix Downs and Ethers and other nice items, they didn't put them consistently in every town. They just kind of replaced a couple things in the existing item shops. So you don't always have easy access in the speedrun. You might have to do a bunch of backtracking.
Time to use that key again.
I'm sure they don't mind.
I'm pretty sure they've been trying to get that lock-on gem for years.
Why they kind of locked it up and gave the key to the prince of a foreign country is
Perhaps questionable
an
decisions.
interesting question too.
The other thing I'll grab here is Iron Armor. This is the first upgrade that we've gotten for our fighter's body armor, and he'll only actually get one more the entire game. I'll put that on when I get over to Melmon, and I've picked up all of the other items that I'm going to get.
Alright. If we got a moment, we got another donation in.
Yeah, that's probably a good time.
Yeah, we have a $10 donation from Gray Duran Fury. He says, Final Fantasy VII was the first RPG I ever played, and that was almost 13 years ago at this point. It is still my favorite genre to this day, and I'm currently backlogging the Final Fantasy series. Thank you for your donation.
Well, this is definitely one of the versions I would recommend if you want to get back into Final Fantasy I if you started late in the series. Probably this one or the PSP are pretty good choices for casual play. I think this is a little bit more challenging just from the encounter rates, but overall I kind of like it.
I don't know how exactly the PSP version is available to get nowadays.
That is the kind of the big thing. It is not consistently in the PlayStation Store, so unless you've got the original PSP that can play the UMD cartridges.
Yeah, and GBA cartridges are everywhere.
Yep. Okay, so robbing this dwarf's retirement funds, but it's okay because he got him through insurance fraud. These dwarves are just horrible, horrible people. We never want to come back here again. In fact, this is how terrible they are. We need to, open up a canal, and so this guy thinks the best way of doing that is to blow open the canal from underneath the ocean.
With you in it.
With us in it. Like, we're just going to stand around the corner. That probably is just not going to have any good consequences. And for some reason they call dwarves master engineers. But we do get a nice little cutscene of everything blowing up here.
You give them a little bit of nitro powder and suddenly they think they're experts.
That whirlpool is one of the optional dungeons that they've added to the game. There are 4 of those. One's unlocked for each of the 4 fiends that we fight. And they're themed after Final Fantasy 3, 4, 5, and 6 in that order that you do the 4 fiends. We will not be going there because they're randomized very heavily, both the floor layouts as well as which items appear. So you can't really just duck in and grab like one good item from them. They do have good items at the bottom of several of them, but just not practical for a speedrun.
I do really like what they do at those places in the PSP version specifically, too, where they give more appropriate music for all of the bosses that are based on FF3, 4, 5, and 6.
So since the dwarves are going to kick us out, like, they probably didn't appreciate us flooding their entire cave. We're going to rob them before we go.
Liar. He blows everything up and blames it on you.
So we got a couple of items in there. I got the Wormkiller Sword, which is our first nice sword upgrade. This version of the game, elemental swords do actually work. There's not a lot of dragons that you're going to be fighting throughout the game, but especially at the early levels where you'd be taking the sword around. However, it would be effective if you were to get the appropriate element matched up with the monster type.
Does the Wereslayer sword actually do more damage to...
It does more damage to regenerating creatures, which is also something that's been fixed. You'll notice that there are some creatures that have green numbers that appear at the end of their turns. It's because they actually do regenerate a portion of their HP each turn. We'll probably see that the first time on Vampire, because I don't think we did any fights with werewolves long enough to get through an entire turn. Take advantage of our newly opened canal. It basically is a way to separate the world into a couple of different sections. So like at the beginning of the game, you're locked into that little area without having the bridge, and that forces you to kind of go through the tutorial part. Then you have the inner sea, and then finally you get access to a lot more of the game's overall space. And you start seeing that there is a big world out there. If you had the NES version and you got the big map of the game, you were completely spoiled about where everything was. The original Japanese Famicom didn't have all those clues, and so things like going to ordeals and so on was a lot more of a mystery. You didn't actually get like hints about ordeals until you got to Onrak, and there's like one dragon wandering around saying, "Hey, why don't you go talk to this Bahamut guy?"
I take it the wrapping around the port for ships is a no-encounter zone in this version, too?
Right, so the dock tiles, which were black and white checkerboard squares in the NES version, they actually kind of look like stone in this version. They're safe squares, which means that I will never get into encounters on them. There's a lot fewer safe squares in this version of the game than there were in the original. They just kind of took out some of the nice ones around the Fiends areas. as well as in a couple places like ordeals where once you got to like the end objective, you wouldn't have any more battles. Here you have to actually deal with things like the very last square. This is going to be my first of 2 descents into the Earth Cave. This will be to go fight the vampire. And if we had the emergency exit, this is where I'd also be saving a lot of time, just not having to backtrack through here. I do fight a couple of things in here. These bulls are one, as well as trolls on the second floor. They just give really good experience, and I'm looking for a couple of levels, so hopefully that we're at level 15 by the time we get to Lich.
No poison, come on.
You know, I don't think we've been poisoned the entire game yet, which
You
NES would
say
be
that.
completely impossible.
You have been poisoned. You reset for it, though.
Well, yes, but having to actually use an antidote. There we go.
There we go.
Right on time.
Thanks for the jinx.
You're welcome.
Maybe at some point you can let people experience the horribleness that is the nerfed poison sound effect in this version too.
Yeah, it's just so subtle and hard to hear that you're not even going to notice it. It's like a relaxing massage. I wish Doyson was here.
Yeah. That was my one disappointment with the volunteer scheduling this year, is that we didn't specifically arrange for Doysum to get to be on tech for the Final Fantasy run again.
Thankfully, they don't rearrange your party when you get poisoned nowadays.
Oh, that is so nice.
I was wondering why he was so salty when I was talking to him.
Yeah, last year, basically we held the stream hostage until they gave us cash. And I did that by having my characters poisoned for like 40-45 minutes.
And who was poisoned, of course, but Dan.
It was Dan.
Yes.
Good job, Dan.
So there's a big jump in difficulty on this floor. Basically the first 2 floors, it's not much harder than the outside monsters. 3rd floor and the 4th floor just gets lots and lots of nasty monsters who evidently were taking a vacation, because that is probably the farthest you can walk in the GBA version without getting into encounters. This is also why I save throughout here. There's a bunch of stun-locking monsters, cockatrices, more of those wizards.
I hate cockatrices.
Things that you do not want to see. I did buy a couple of gold needles at Elfland, which is one of the big things that I do with the power staff money. Good bat.
Not so good bad.
Yeah, the bat can get stuck in the area into Vampire's lair here, and since NPCs can't walk through doors, if he goes into this right-hand section, he just has to wander his way back out. There's no way to force him.
Alright, vampire.
So all of your attacks do roughly 60 damage on him. If I get lucky with the spells, he can get 100 or so. That's because Vampire's just got really good magic defense, so you typically are not going to get the double damage on him. Which means it'll take like 5 or 6 attacks for us to kill him. There's regen.
This will never become a normal enemy later, ever.
Good job, Garrett. We've got Phoenix Downs for you, though. He's just helping us out by giving his share of the experience to the rest of the party.
What a guy.
Alright, we're about to approach the 1 hour mark in the run, and, well, we still got plenty of time to fill up that donation incentive, so for the bare knuckle fighting against the final boss.
We definitely want to see that.
Yeah, and we are aware that there's some issues with PayPal going on that are affecting a lot of people, unfortunately, and they are being worked on right now.
Yes, hopefully we'll have that resolved soon, and we can see Chaos get punched in the face really, really hard. It's currently at $140 out of $300 necessary. I believe you guys can do it. I'm looking forward to reading your comments.
I will stall as long as it takes to get it, so you will donate for this.
Hey, what about those bonus that you were talking about?
I will go and get weapons that are unnecessary to finish the game. I will turn this airship around. Exactly.
He will get them just to go sell them. What's this? You call this sword an Excalibur?
Well,
I'll give you 1 GP. Clearly you're lying.
it's this legendary blade. It's amazing. Come on, it's got to be at least worth 100.
Now, the reason I'm fighting these guys is because it is an unrunnable battle. There's a bunch of battles throughout the game which you just simply cannot run from. You also cannot get ambushes or preemptives there, so it's kind of a trade-off to get them for things like the wizards. This one is kind of obvious. It's the same encounter formation as it is used in the Marsh Cave boss battle. So probably for ease of programming, you wanted to make sure that you couldn't run away from that one, so you can't run away from all of them. However, there are other formations which are just completely random. You have to memorize that this is a particular one that you can't run from. And those tend to be ones that are reused for the formation IDs of the bosses. Just kind of happens to map to other things in different dungeons than the one the boss is in.
Spiders.
Yeah, sadly we did not see the poisonous party mix in the Marsh Cave. There is one formation which has 4 poisonous type creatures in it. We call it the poisonous party mix. It's like Chex Mix, but it's the opposite kind of good for that.
I like Chex Mix, though.
You should probably not get the poisonous party mix flavor.
I would just stick with Chex Mix then.
Now, because I'm on the way out, I can actually use my spells a little bit more freely. I had to save a lot of MP just in case we got into more battles down on that 3rd floor. And if I had the emergency exit, I could do whatever I want. It wouldn't really be a significant factor for MP constraints. The second trip through with Lich, it is actually going to always be pretty constrained on my MP. I also want to see a couple of levels here because our red mages are still in the 120s. We want to get at least 1 strong level up before Lich, if not 2 for them. And it's like a 1 in 4 chance.
Yeah, red mages are they're never going to have a lot of HP in this game.
Yeah, they're very heavily nerfed from the original, where they could be almost as good as fighters, plus having all of their spells. One of the things they did in this version, although they made them better accuracy-wise in the early game, they took out a lot of their HP, so they're significantly weaker than white mages, even for HP. And that's why later in the game you'll actually see that the white mage is the second party member, because she's got better defense as well as better HP than the red mages. So she's more of a tank than they are. This part here is a little bit of a side quest that is put in the game just to frustrate you and make the Earth Cave a little bit longer. Rather than putting additional content, they have you backtrack through the Earth Cave, then go visit Sarda the Sage, who has an Earth Rod, which allows you to continue on past the Vampire's Lair. And I really would have enough resources, especially with a little bit of additional grinding to go through Kill Vampire and Lich in one trip. However, it's just physically not possible to do it in the game.
Yeah, this is pretty much the only just kind of general, like, game progression thing about Final Fantasy I that I don't really care for, is this required backtracking out of the Earth Cave.
And the NES version, or I guess the Famicom version, when I figured out how to do the very big sequence-breaking glitches, I went and found out what all of the storyline triggers were. It turns out that they actually have a really robust set of triggers preventing you from doing sequence breaks. So if you come to Sarda without having gotten the ruby, he actually has a different dialogue line, so he won't give you the Earth Rod. This version of the game, the Titan has to turn around to consume his star rubies. Just ashamed of his horrible, horrible addiction, which wasn't acceptable to show on screen. It was acceptable in the 80s, but by the time we got to the GBA remakes, it couldn't be shown anymore. And Sarda in this version has been renamed. It was SARDA in the original. It's now SADDA, so Sada the Sage, which is basically spelled the same in Japanese both ways, so I'm not quite sure why they changed it. There's a bunch of like really, really small changes, mostly architectural, where they moved like one tile around in dungeons and so on that you don't really notice unless you play the games back-to-back a lot. I don't know if it was because they were just copying things. Like, they didn't have access to a lot of the original programming when they did the remakes. Nasir had left Square by this point, so they had basically redone a lot of the games that he had programmed from scratch. So I'm imagining that there was a couple of places where they were just kind of copying things from drawings and stats as opposed to being able to like port over the game code directly.
Yeah, and given how little actually worked in the original game, I guess it's just as well that they had to recreate it from scratch.
Well, there are a lot of bugs in the original. It did so much in terms of introducing new concepts.
For the era it came out, yeah.
Like, you really
Definitely.
didn't even notice until like you kind of dissect the game and take it apart, like how little was kind of fully functional and fleshed.
Oh, you have to watch those stairs. They're sneaky little devils.
Lesser Tiger.
Yeah, this guy's a real pain in the NES version. He's got 3 hits as well as one of the highest critical hit rates in the game.
Wait, no, it's Red 13!
Yes. In the original game, most monsters have a 1% chance of critical hits, and the tigers have like a 19% chance, which very, very dangerous for your back row party members, especially since there's no way to get life spells, Phoenix Downs, anything revival. Plot reasons, the vampires destroyed the clinic in Melmond, so NES version, you were really out of luck if you died at that part.
Isn't there kind of a fake-out little device, too, where you're meant to think that the vampire is the Fiend of Earth at first, based on just how he's talked about by the
Yeah, all the
PCs?
townspeople kind of talk to him as like the big boss, and then you discover that there's this area behind.
Shoutouts to the giant corridor that I wandered into and I could not escape from.
Yeah, on the far left-hand side of this floor, there's an area which just has every single step of the way you get into a fight with giants.
Great for grinding.
Very, very good for experience. But in my experience is going to have to come from like these guys as well as some of the fights on the 3rd and 4th floor. I don't want to use a lot of my magic, but I do need at least one more good level.
Again, apologies for those that are trying to get donations through. We're currently still working on getting the PayPal problems resolved. And in the meantime, I hope you bear with us and that that your donations will be eventually processed.
And I just absolutely love the troll sprite in this game, by the way, too.
He has a monster headache.
Yes.
Yeah, I think in one of the bonus dungeons where you're fighting reskins of all the monsters, it does like complain about his headache for the troll boss in that one. No strong level ups. We might have to be doing Lich the hard way. Hopefully I'll get one more shot at it.
Well, Garrett's got 2 more shots at it, theoretically. We hope.
This is good to see. These are a little bit better for me than the monsters downstairs since I don't have to use my MP on them. My white mage, I can be a little bit more profligate with her magic. I do have a stack of potions if she runs low, and she doesn't really need to do a whole lot during the Lich battle. Nope.
Yes.
Yeah, back to this floor. There's a lot of nasty stuff in here, and B4 is pretty much the same as well. I kind of think that B4 tends to give me less of the stun-locking creatures and more of things like cockatrices, but I think that's all just kind of in my imagination.
Joyson's currently in chat, warning to attack.
Probably for the best. Irritating Poison. So much less offensive than it was before.
Yeah, it sounds like an Atari sound effect to me in this game.
So these are the dreaded jerkbirds of Final Fantasy 1.
Cockatrices.
They turn you to stone, and as you get turned to stone, you've got fewer and fewer party members that are able to participate in the battle, which means your back row is going to be much more likely to be targeted.
And
You're
they're
able to get two Thundaras off, which kills the cockatrices. Very happy to see that.
They're also considered dead.
They're also nice and coughed up a gold needle for you.
It was nice dropping that back, so I didn't lose anything on that transaction.
And the fighter didn't automatically get put into 4th position, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are broken as well about how the reordering works. So if you have multiple characters that are dead, poison, petrified, whatever, in the NES version, sometimes it would get it right, and other times it would just be completely random how it was jumbled around. Here I'm just glad that they took it out, so I don't have to remember to reorder things and memorize what characters are given what names. I think I'm just going to go ahead and reset for that one. Only a couple of tiles walked. That wouldn't have been bad if it had been a normal attack, just because I probably could have gotten a little bit of experience from them. Mummies, I normally would not fight them, but here, because I am just short on my XP, we didn't get very many XP encounters on the way down to Vampire or back, so I try to typically have like level 14 if I don't have the emergency exit going into the second descent. And here being a little bit short, I'm just going to try to get 15 as soon as I can.
In the meantime, I'll take this moment to give a shout out to some of the people that have helped us out with our wonderful artwork. Namely, I want to shout out Carrie Fry and LLK, who are responsible for many of our sub emotes, as well as Orlin and Namix, who are the folks responsible for the stream overlays. And these all can be found at on Twitter at Orlin and at Namix SRL, respectively.
Good job, White Mage.
Yeah, okay.
So that was probably my last level up. We're going to see if we got any strong level ups here. Nope. Okay, so this is going to be really tough for Lich.
It's okay. He doesn't paralyze you when he hits you. Oh.
I'm really worried about Blizzara, actually. So 135 is probably lower than his lowest possible Blizzara, which means that when he casts it, both of the red mages are going to die. And I really need them around to buff the fighter. So what we're going to do is basically try to do the fight a couple of times until Lich does Blizzara really late in. He does like to cast magic in his first magic spell, but just like Astos, there is a distribution between his physical attacks and magic attacks, so we're going to hope that he does physical for a little while in the early battle.
So what influences when they get when a character gets a strong level up?
It is purely random, except for places where you have a guaranteed strong level up. So the fighter and the white mage, they've got lots and lots of guaranteed ones. So that's why they have pretty good, consistent, high HP at this point. The red mages, I think they only have one strong level up guaranteed up to this point, and the other ones are like 1 in 4 chances. So here there's really just one strong level up short of where I wanted them to be. So it's not like you need a whole bunch of them to make it through there, but it can pretty easily happen that you kind of get just like an overall shortage of them. And normally what I see is that one of them is in good shape and the other one's just really far behind. And here they happen to be very equal between the two of them. Trying to conserve my MP as much as possible. When I get down to the 5th floor, the monsters are actually going to get slightly easier. So this is like my last little stretch where I have to worry about the mage's MP. 40 should be enough for the Lich battle. That's 4 casts of Temper.
It's the fact that these are called mages in the NES version was always confusing to me as a kid because they don't actually cast any spells. They just punch you.
Yeah, the wizards and sorcerers, they were taken from Dungeons and Dragons, and they have the original names here, which are Pisco Demons and Mind Flayers. And Mind Flayers are the reason why those guys have that instant death attack.
They're a lot easier.
Because they suck your brain out.
Yep.
Thankfully, they did not make them as hard as actual Pisco Demons.
Yeah, the Pisco Demons are... they do a lot of damage, but they're significantly weaker than the Mind Flayers that we'll see later. Those are one of the worst enemies overall in the game. We'll start seeing them for the first time potentially at Ordeals, or hopefully I will not see any there. Like, we can get good playthroughs where I don't get any for the entire game, and that would be lovely. Alright, one last sprint here. I actually probably can be using my Red Mage's MP because they're going to be dead for the fight. And I have one backup Ether as well, and I'm just trying to stretch it as much as I can.
Even though we're currently experiencing donation problems with PayPal, there is one thing that is guaranteed to work, and that is the Yeti.com, where you can go get one of 7 awesomely designed t-shirts. And for every t-shirt you buy, $3 will go to Nami. So that is an excellent way to work around this current problem of ours if you really, really want to be able to do something and get an awesome t-shirt.
Alright, we're going to once again put the White Mage in the front. But it is time for Lich. Let's see if we can get a couple of turns off without him doing Blizzara. I need enough tempers on my fighter that he can finish off the fight even after the Red Mages are dead. The White Mage can do 100 damage or so with her Diara spell. It helps a little bit, especially in this circumstance. Okay, 2 tempers. Just hoping he doesn't cast Blizzara here. Alright, good start.
Temper is a attack power buff spell that can be applied many times. If people missed the earlier explanation.
3 tempers. Normally I want to see like 6 or 7. We'll see how long Lich can hold out. Bye-bye. So 300 is not bad. If I get a couple of rounds off and he does not paralyze the fighter, we should be good here. Yes.
Yes. Not the fighter. I think that's... yeah.
So now we basically just have to hope that the paralysis wears off before worse stuff happens.
Ooh. Go, L4.
Yeah! There you go. Oh, I've heard things have been going great.
Easy every time, Bro Sancho.
We walked in and there were
I better check
3 dead
donations.
characters. What do you think?
I missed what?
You missed a bad time.
I missed a lot of them, so I've heard. Give me the fun.
Well, he's not missing any more now.
And everybody celebrates that Lich battle.
The chat is going crazy.
So this is the first of our optional dungeons. This is the one that's themed after Final Fantasy III. This is the shortest one. It's only got 5 floors. They get progressively longer, so it goes 5, 10, 15, 20 floors for each of the optional dungeons that get unlocked.
I think this is the only one that you have to revisit 4 times to fight all of the optional bosses, though.
That one I think is 3 times. I think it's the only one with an odd number of bosses. And then the later ones you can fight 2 at a time because they put in a mid-boss and a final boss.
I believe that one actually has, the first one has 4 bosses.
Does it?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think it's the 4 Dark World mini-bosses
Yeah.
from the
Okay.
final dungeon of FF3.
Shows how much I go into those dungeons.
Yes.
Well, they didn't make them so random. Maybe.
And I
throw in
really,
some
really,
equipment.
really love the remix of the FF3 boss theme that the PSP version has.
Yeah, the PSP's got some pretty strong upgrades, mostly in the optional dungeons. It also has a super, super long one, which is the Trials of Chronadia. And that one, that is a life-destroying dungeon if you want to go and 100% that game.
Yes.
Because not only is it gigantic and you can't restart in the middle of it, but also you have to play through it 8 times to get everything.
Yeah.
Each time taking a different path, fighting a different version of the final boss.
So naturally, you've destroyed your life doing this.
No, I did the hardest run and I said I'm done with that.
Yeah, because each version of that boss is different in the bestiary, so you have to, like Jair just said, you have to do it 8 times if you want to get 100% bestiary.
You could also just play Theater Rhythm and listen to the PSP music on that.
Highly recommended as an option.
Kaizoku's.
Yeah, these guys were how we figured out how RNG manipulation worked in the NES version of the game. So if you first turned on your console and you were by a ship, and you went out to sail, you would really, really suspiciously notice that you got that battle very frequently. And that's because when the NES was done for its RNG tables, it had these deterministic tables of how monster formations worked and how many steps there were to the next battle. And it would cycle through that based on its state from power on. Now, the results in combat were random. It was based on frames that you had been delaying, as well as the actions that were done. This version of the game, where you can't do any manipulation, it's all based on frames and actions.
Just the way he's playing this game compared to the NES version kind of shows that too, because when he ran the NES version last year, he had his laptop in front of him with a database on it of that he was using to stay on top of how the encounter manipulation was going through the run, but now he's just kind of sitting back and playing a video game.
Yeah, it's so much more relaxing.
Yeah, some RPGs, unfortunately, there's just so much information to process you can't possibly...
Yeah, and we also had to set up a table to put the NES within arm's reach, too, just because a lot of the manipulation involved having to press the reset button or the power button on the NES, whereas they have a soft reset by, I think, just pressing all of the face and shoulder buttons at the same time. It just gets me how cheap ethers are in this game compared to like every other Final Fantasy.
Yeah, you go through them a lot. The way that the spell MPs are calibrated is a little bit different from the later games as well. So you do spend and have a lot more MP than you typically would. And we're going to Crescent Lake here to get the canoe. The canoe is going to unlock a lot more of the mid-game. And if you talk to anybody here, they will tell you, hey, you should really go to Gurgur Volcano. Have you heard about this volcano? There's a fiend there. You should probably go to visit this place. But you actually have 3 choices. You can go to Gurgur Volcano, you can go to the Ice Cave, and you can go to Castle Ordeal. So I can do Gurgur Volcano last, because that's the opposite of what they tell me to do.
Also, the floor is lava.
The floor is lava, but I like that because...
Well, we'll get into that when he gets there.
Yeah, there's a very good property of lava, as well as ice, although there's a lot fewer ice tiles overall. Now, I kind of noticed that there's like no landmarks or references whatsoever when you're sailing, so I typically go just very simple directions based on coastal references. So, for example, here I want to go from Crescent Lake to Ordeal, so I know that I can go by Marsh Cave, and if I sail a little bit past Marsh Cave and then turn south, then I'll be in the perfect spot to cut over for where Ordeals is. And that was really important in the NES version, where you actually had a step count, and if you took too many steps, you were really, really out of luck. But here it would just be, if you make a mistake navigation, then you get a slightly higher chance of more monster encounters.
Long before, too.
So this is probably, maybe 20 levels below where I'm supposed to be doing Ordeals. There's a lot of things in here that can kill me very, very easily. Luckily we got a preemptive there. Preemptive means that you can guarantee run the very first turn if you try. If you do any actions and then you go to the second turn, then you lose that benefit. So you'll often see me just be really thankful with preemptives, especially late game monsters that have a lot of agility. This guy's new. In the NES version, you could just go directly to the teleporter. The teleporter is locked by having the crown. You cannot possibly get here without the crown, since that's required for the Mystic Key quest. But again, nothing in the game works except for their prevention of sequence breaking. And the NES version had one more completely working feature, which I'll talk about later in the game.
I do miss how the teleporters in the NES were all thrones instead of these pillars of light, too. It's really good to be king.
So these guys, this would be game over in the NES version. They have Fire 2 to start off with, which would be doing like 120 to everybody in the party. They've been nerfed very heavily. They got Fire 1 instead. Same thing with the Man Cats, who are the green version of those earlier Catmen. And there's one encounter here which is unrunnable. That's Zombles. They're good experience though, so I don't mind too much. They'll come in packs of 1 to 3. And this whole dungeon, the point of it is it's supposed to be a trial to show your courage to Bahamut to do the class change. And it's never really been clear exactly why a teleporter maze and a rat tail is a proof of courage. But, you know, whatever works for him works for me.
I will take getting this rat tail over getting the pigtails.
That is definitely
It's
true.
just a really elaborate trolling, basically, on Bahamut's part.
Well, really what Bahamut wants to do is he wants to take that rat tail to the dwarf in the Mithril mine to trade it for the abdomen so he can get himself an Excalibur.
This is a lot easier getting others to do this.
Saving here because of the trap tile with a nightmare fight.
Yeah, 100% of this side quest is optional, too. He doesn't need to do it to complete the game, but there are reasons why doing this is significantly faster than not doing it.
The biggest one is going to be the teleport spell. It avoids a lot of backtracking in the late game.
I know Jair has done some no class change runs of this game too. It's about 10 minutes difference on average.
Yeah, it's about 5 to 10 minutes. It's all going to be about your luck. As you can see, there's a really high encounter rate in this game. So backtracking means that you're going to go through more dungeons and just have a harder overall time with all the extra monsters that you're going to fight.
I was really cheering for the white mage to kill that there.
Luckily, we have Phoenix Downs. Now, there's one architectural change in this level. In the NES version, there's a little cutout tile right above this square, which allowed me to grab the heal staff if I wanted it, and then come back through here without getting the nightmare fight again, but they filled in that corner. So I would have to fight the nightmare fight again if I wanted the heal staff. Fortunately, it is not really significant in this version.
Yeah, I ended up using the heal staff for the Gulag or whatever. I can never remember its name.
Okay, these are the Mind Flayers. Boom. So besides that instant death attack, they also have all-party paralysis. Basically, I'll give them like 3 seconds to decide if I can get away from them. Otherwise, that's a reset. They're just really not worth dealing with.
In some ways, they're worse than cockatrices.
In a lot of ways, they're worse.
The only way that they're not worse than cockatrices is that they're not birds, but they're honorary squid birds.
Yeah, the arch rivals of Team Ultros Boogie.
Team Squidward.
Now, in the NES version, this is all safe squares. I wouldn't be able to get into any more encounters. Here, I have to actually deal with them all the way to the end game. And that was particularly useful for NES because you could not survive half of these fights.
Just to clarify, the cutoff point for weaponless chaos.
Oh, really late in the game.
Yeah. Okay.
You guys have time.
You have plenty of time, guys.
We're going to fix this PayPal problem. You're going to donate.
Yeah, probably
we're gonna
about
do
an
what
hour
was
and a
stressed.
half or so away.
We're currently at 140 out of 300. Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, the PayPal thing really has slowed processing down, so we're dealing it with the best we can, guys. Please be patient with us.
Well, there's that strong level up you wanted for the red mages a while ago.
Yeah, well. Sometimes they just do it to mock me, which is pretty much every playthrough. There is another spot in the game where I do want HP again. That is going to be Chaos. I want to see 400 ideally on my high red mage. I can do it as low as like 375, maybe 350 if I'm pushing it. But we've got a lot of levels to go before that. Alright, I'm going to do that fight again. You can redo bosses, you know. It's because these guys have a 2% chance of dropping a Mega Elixir. Mega Elixir is nice for the Chaos battle. It's not required. It would save me a little bit of time having to pick up a regular Elixir by Phantom. And these guys are good experience as well, so, you know, why not?
How much do you get bought?
I'm just going to do one more.
It's really dragging on.
Yeah, well. If you think these guys are dragging on, you should wait until we get to Temple of Fiends.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Somehow dragons supposed to be extinct, but, you know, we're fighting their zombies. I can understand that. However, that Temple of Fiends, that is packed with more dragons than you can count. All right, let's one last chance. It's like a 2% chance for each of these drops, so unlikely, but hopefully we get it. Nope, we're going on. All the bosses have a drop, so like Garland will drop a longsword, really nice to have a nice weapon early game. Astos will drop in a silver sword. That's even nicer because you can't get silver swords in Elfland in this version. They took them out and moved them to Crescent Lake. Basically, silver swords were super overpowered in the NES version. They were stronger than all of the elemental swords that you could buy or find at that time. And so there's no reason to use anything but them. Sadly, we cannot do that here.
And then there are zombie dragons in the Temple of Fiends Revisited too, so we will potentially get more chances at that Mega Elixir drop.
Right after I get past the spot where I would be picking up the regular elixir is where the zombie dragons come back.
And I did see you get one after getting the regular elixir once too.
I'm much more likely to get it there than I am at the regular one.
Yep.
So now we're sailing on to Ice Cave. Ice Cave is probably one of the more difficult spots in the game for casual play. There's a couple of spots which just have really big jumps in difficulty. The first one is Marsh Cave, and as long as you're doing a lot of extra leveling, you probably don't notice that one as much. Then you've got Earth Cave, the mid-floors where you're seeing all those bad enemies, and then probably Ice Cave, because that is where you're really supposed to be going after Gurgur Volcano, which we still have not visited. And I kind of think it's actually more difficult than Ordeals is in a lot of ways for the monster formations. There's a little bit of a shortcut back in here. You can get out of your boat directly to the canoe, which is also what we did in Ordeals to get early access to it. You're normally supposed to fly to Ordeals in the airship and walk a long way over a bunch of terrain that you can't land on, but the canoe gives you an actual shortcut to it.
Is this where the Poisonous Party Mix lives, by the way? These rivers?
Poisonous Party Mix is only in Marsh Cave. We do have Poisonous Nachos here.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of, yeah.
The Poisonous Nachos go with the Poisonous Party Mix to have the end of any particular party that you want to have friends with anymore.
Watch out for the crocodiles here. They are surprisingly brutal.
Yeah, they mixed up the monsters. Well, not mixed up, but there was two different areas in the world for the NES version. There was the southern half of the world for Canoe and the northern half of the world for Canoe. And the northern half was a much more difficult area. And in this version, they combined the two, so you just have one set of monsters for canoeing. Which means that you can get into a lot more dangerous battles early game. Alright, Ice Cave time. Let's see how many times we get trolled by cockatrices or mind flayers,
It's only a matter.
or just randomly killed by a monster on the 3rd floor.
Good start.
It's a good start to it. Yep. Luckily, we do have a little bit more firepower now, as well as a slightly higher magic defense, which helps with the cockatrice petrification. We're never really safe from petrification for most of the game until we start getting ribbons. So the White Mage, because she has a higher intelligence stat than the Red Mage, actually is surprisingly good with consumable items as well as reusable items like the gauntlets. So it's based on the intelligence stat for items as well, which means that mages like the White Mage and Black Mage, incredibly powerful gauntlets, fire staff or mage staff. But for example, like a fighter who could use those items very effectively in the NES version is doing like 20-30 damage. And thankfully, I've got a big stack of ethers that I got in Crescent Lake, so I no longer have to really worry about my magic. We'll be doing a pretty long section in here. This is where I get most of my levels in the game. And by pretty long, I mean like, 10 minutes. Unless these guys show up. I don't think we're sticking around for that one. I did a playthrough of the Dan Party. Dan, again, is the name of the Red Mage that gets sacrificed in the NES version. So I had Dan, and Dr. Fail.
Dr. Daniel Fail for his full name.
And the screen capture on Twitch for that playthrough was exactly the scene in the ice cave with the first Dan dead, Mind Blast going off, which makes the ice cave look like it's entirely on fire because Mind Blast makes the background red. And ice, when it's red shifted, looks like it's just completely burning in the background. So those Dark Wizards cast Faraga as their first spell, which would wipe the party, but you have a 90% chance of ambushing them. These guys, I just got lucky on the preemptives. I save at that bottom floor because that's actually, even though it's like a 4-square walk, technically is the bottom floor of the dungeon. So you can get all kinds of nasty stuff down there. Let's see. Our red mages are pretty equal, but I will sort them into HP order here.
Yo, I got some good news, gentlemen. We have some donations.
Why don't you hold that
Yes.
off, Ozzy?
Yeah, we have $5.
Ozzy, why don't you hold those off?
All
We'll
right.
have a stretch where there is a really good spot for donations coming
Okay,
shortly.
I got a lot to read here.
All right.
I hope you have a lot to read. So right here is a trap tile. We'll get an encounter like this every time that we fall down to the 3rd floor. And this is an example of an overstuffed template. So the way this game works is the monster formation is basically a template where you have a monster type and a range, minimum number of monsters and a maximum number of monsters of that type that can appear. And it'll randomly distribute them, equal probabilities of everything in that range, up until the 9-monster limit. So if you want to guarantee that you're always going to see lots and lots of monsters, you'll stuff the template so that you could potentially have a max of like 20. And that means that the rolls are very likely to kind of completely fill up the screen. And that takes place in a couple of spots in the game where you have like a preferred enemy and then like a secondary enemy. That particular one at the beginning is just to kind of make sure that you have a really hard time with paralysis each time you drop down there. This is also the most dangerous floor that I'll be on for a long time. So hopefully we don't see frost dragons or other nasty things down here.
This is such cheerful music for such a dangerous cave.
Yeah, the fact that this uses the friendly cave theme just seems so out of place to me,
Yes.
and especially in the original.
almost through the 3rd floor. Then we get back up to the 1st floor, which has those cockatrices and wizards and so on. So, like, there's no place in this dungeon that is safe. But at least this one's a little bit of a breather. Now we're going to fight our friend the Eye. And I'll explain how this fight works, as well as why we do this fight, and then I will turn it over to Ozzy for some donations. So, Eye is a pretty easy battle. If I get lucky like that, I'll kill him in one hit. And he gives me 3,225 experience as well as 3,225 gold. One of the highest sources of experience and gold in the mid-game. By the way, you can re-trigger bosses just like we did at the Zombie Dragons. So this is where I get most of my levels throughout the entire game. I'm coming in at level 19, and I'm going to exit at level 31. Maybe after the donation sequence, I'll tell you a little bit more about why we do that. But it's 60 eyes, more or less. And if it goes really well, it's like 10, 12 seconds an eye.
All
so
right.
go, take it away, Ozzy.
All right. Again, $5 donation from Grey Dorn Fury says, I always get so lost in the early Final Fantasy games. How long did it originally take people to actually find out where to go and find all this stuff?
Yeah, like 4 hours.
Sounds about right. We have a $44 donation from Anonymous saying, here's 44 bucks to see Chaos get punched in the face. Knock him down. And we have a $13 donation from an Anonymous that just repeats, Warmech. Viva Chocobo. We have another $30 donation from Anonymous saying, glad I was able to be awake to see the Final Fantasy run. Good luck with the run, and here's hoping for better level ups for the rest. And a $20 donation from Anonymous. I watched you practice the bare-knuckled chaos while you were practicing last night. Definitely cool. Do it again. Thank you all for those donations, guys. Keep it coming.
Thank you, everybody. They're all well appreciated. And again, we are looking to get the Chaos Bare Knuckle incentive in there, as well as donations to name anything possible Warmech that you can. Because we want to entice Warmech, make him feel very welcome and at home.
Yes.
We
saved a spot on the couch for you, Warmech.
Yeah.
And sit down right here.
I don't know how many playthroughs I've done of this game. Like, probably 50 or 60 with these splits that I have at home.
Yeah.
Never gotten Warmech in a speedrun.
Yeah.
I went out and bought a new cart just in case my old one was broken. So this is a cart I got about 2 weeks ago. Hopefully this has got better luck. Still no Warmechs, but I'm just really hoping, because Puexel here has been asking me every single time.
Yes.
He wants to see Warmech.
Villagin too. And as far as what bare knuckle chaos is, by the way, too, is that like we talked about a couple times, chaos in this version of FF1 is massively buffed compared to the original, with 10 times as much HP and double the attack power. And that incentive is going to be to punch him out with no weapon equipped.
How hard could that be?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to find out. We've reached that goal.
All right.
Yes, everybody. So now it's time to just donate everything to Warmech.
Yes.
Everything goes to Warmech. Got it.
And it looks like getting Megid and Phantasy Star 4 that's coming up after this still needs a little bit to go, too.
So while we were reading those donations, we got 4 levels. Let me ether up my white mage so that we have enough go juice for the rest of the time that we're here. And so we have another couple of places that we could be doing this grind instead. The original NES version, you went to Gurgur Volcano and fought Agamas. And Agamas were nice because they had 2 of these trap tiles back to back, which meant that you never got into enemy encounters on the off step. For the step route manipulation, since these are free squares, you could just go and bounce as much as you wanted to and didn't have to worry about recalculating things. But so we don't have to worry about that. I go for the eye since it's got slightly more experience than gold. It's like 3,200 versus 2,400 for the Agamas. And we can also do a couple other things that are break even if everything goes well, but tend to be a little bit worse. So we could go back to ordeals or even stay there fighting those zombie Ds. However, zombie dragons, it's 50-50 whether or not you get 1 or 2, and you'd have to consistently get 2 zombie dragons every single time to keep up with the rate at which you can kill the eyes. You can also get a Peninsula Power, but since you can't manipulate the monsters there, there's no way to guarantee that you're going to get the more lucrative ones. So again, you'd have to get like perfect luck just over and over again in order to balance it out. And the reason why I'm kind of doing the grind at this point in the game is because coming out of Onrak, where the Sea Shrine is, I want to be able to buy Hilaga for my White Mage. It's a long walk back if I don't have enough XP then. So she needs level 33 coming out of the Sea Shrine, which means I'm basically working backwards saying, okay, 31 here, I go to the waterfall, I go to the Sea Shrine, I'll probably make up the difference. Well, I go to Gurgur Volcano in the meantime, but you know that's a really, really short dungeon, as you'll see.
For probably not the reason that you'd expect it to be, too. So, was it because of better healing capacity in this version that this is better than Agama's?
It's a slightly better XP per second, as well as the fact that the eye has better gold drops. So he's got 3225 gold as well as experience, whereas the Agamas give you less gold than they do experience. So for this game, I need to buy a lot of stuff after this point. And rather than having to do a lot more loot farming or going around to places in the world, it's better to just grind on the eye for that. As you can see, I'm getting into these encounters every once in a while in between eye battles. That's why I'm saving frequently, as well as the fact that it'd be really embarrassing if I fell down the pits, which I have done before. Fortunately, the saves mean that you only lose a couple of eyes in progress. You also start seeing that the mage's spells are getting a little bit more powerful. It's a subtle effect here, but once we get like 8 more levels, they'll be able to one-shot these guys pretty easily. White Mage is already starting to get to that point. Now, one thing that does make the eye a lot better of a fight in this version of the game is they've heavily nerfed his gaze ability. The original version of the game, gaze was an instant death attack, which if you had less than 301 HP, would just be complete death for that
Go
person
White
that you targeted.
Mage.
If you're contributing. But in this version, he actually has 4 special attacks called Gaze. The first one you've seen just does damage. The second one, the third one do status effects. And it's not until it gets to the 4th one that it's instant death, and you're not seeing him last very long, so he's not getting 4 attacks off. And I have tried giving the White Mage better equipment. There's a Mithril Hammer that we get in Elfland, but it really just brings her from like 4 damage to 8 damage. So unless she gets like a really lucky hit like she did earlier, it's not much of a contribution to the battle.
This boss is kind of an interesting history as far as localization / censorship, too.
Yeah, this is the one sprite that got a really major overhaul. The original Famicom version, it was a Beholder. Straight from Dungeons & Dragons Beholder. Like, perfectly done Beholder. It's a beautiful piece of sprite artwork. NES version took it out. That's pretty much the only thing that they were afraid of for copyright reasons for the monster graphics. And so that never came back. Not even the Japanese remakes have the Beholder graphic, very sadly. They used that again for Phantom in Temple of Fiends, which was called the Death Beholder. Getting some decent level ups on our red mages. You can see Garrett there with 311. That's probably in good shape. Frit needs a little bit more for me to be comfortable with it. We're at level 27 right now, so 4 more levels to go. This is the one monster I fight the most overall in the game, even more than imps. And there's another technique that I sometimes do if the red mages have a bigger separation in terms of their HP. What I'll actually do is kill one of them off. So right now the guy's 3,225 experience is being split 4 ways, which means we're getting a little bit more than 800 a pop. Right there we went to level 28 for Minwu. And if I kill one of the mages off, it's split 3 ways, so we get about 1,000 or so. That saves, maybe 3 or 4 minutes during the run, optimally, if you get good luck on the red mage's HP. But since I didn't really know where we were going to be for their HP totals, I didn't have a comfortable way of killing the red mage off early. If we get a couple more Thundaras, Ferret might be taking a nap, but we don't have a lot of eyes left.
With that said, I'll take this moment to shout out that we have some amazing prizes for this during this run that you can have a chance of winning. One of which is the very copy as a copy of this game that you're seeing here. That just so happens to also contain Final Fantasy II with it. Just saying. Not only that, there is a Final Fantasy IX Steam Key and a Final Fantasy Bomb Perler. All of these are currently, the only one you can possibly get during this run is the cartridge of the GBA version. But the Perler and the Steam Key for Final Fantasy IX will continue on until Quest for Glory. So there's a lot of cool stuff here to look forward to.
Yeah, because the GBA cartridge that Jair is playing right now does indeed have Final Fantasy II on it too. It isn't the story of how you started speedrunning this version pretty much that you started looking into Final Fantasy II GBA, then just decided to play FF1 just on a whim and like, hey, I think I'll speedrun this instead.
Yeah. So I played a lot of the early Final Fantasies, and I was looking for a good version of Final Fantasy II to speedrun, and the original Japanese version of Final Fantasy II on the Famicom is a really, really kind of tedious run in the mid-game. Like, there's a bunch of enemy encounter formations, which they'll take like 60 or 90 seconds to do their turns, because they'll just do animations over and over and over again, because it'll illustrate each individual hit. So I was like, okay, I want to get a different version of Final Fantasy II to do that. So I was looking at the PSP version and the GBA version, which I had never played before. I was like, okay, I know Final Fantasy 1, so why don't we see how Final Fantasy 1 speedruns on GBA card, which I did a blind speedrun for. And I got to Chaos at like level 25, and I didn't know Chaos had 20,000 HP in this version. It was a little bit of a challenge. But it turned out to be a really, really fun version. And since it's not as broken as the PSP version, this is the one that I really like to speedrun for a relaxation break from Final Fantasy 1 NES. We are 1 level away at this point. And Minwu is the only one I care about level 31 on. That's because Minwu needs to get the heal Aka spell. Everybody else can get levels whenever they want. Guessing 2 more eyes, maybe 3. I try to keep track of roughly how many eyes I've done overall, but it's a little bit of variation every time because you're going to have characters dead at different points, which is going to mean XP is distributed differently every time that you play through here.
Yeah, and unfortunately for its skin, I think we found our Dan too.
Sorry, Ferretskin. You're a good guy and everything, but into the back row you go.
Well, at one battle, he will be in the front.
Yes, one very important battle.
So we've gotten a little bit more MP and HP than we had the first time that we went through this floor. Our attacks also do a little bit more damage. It's still a very scary floor because of the sorcerers as well as the random wandering frost dragons. Even though dark wizards are very concerning because of their Faraga, you have a 90% chance of ambushing them. I guess you have a 90% chance of getting a preemptive, which means that you get to go first. So you either basically go first or they can pretty much kill the party. While I'm here, I'm also going to drop by the bottom left corner, which gives me 40,000 gold. There's our Dark Wizard. Bye-bye.
I first encountered the Dark Wizard in packs of 3, and I didn't realize they could just spam Viagra. That was fun.
Yeah, they're not an enemy that you want to play around with. I do this funny walking pattern because in the middle of those two chests on the far right-hand side, there's a trap tile. And the chest in the upper right-hand corner is the smallest amount of gold overall, so it's kind of like a trick prize that, hey, fooled you. You were greedy, you wanted to get all the treasure chests, but you can just do that and skip it. I'm also going to get one more treasure chest on my way back out, which has 10,000 on the upper floor. I could have gotten that the first time. NES, I'm just used to having to do a certain order for them because you don't have enough steps in the first walkthrough to get the treasure chest done. Here, it doesn't really matter. These guys are not quite as threatening as they were back in the Marsh Cave. These guys still are. The block there on the red mage was the buckler. It's a 2 defense item. And it won't show the animation unless they actually have a shield equipped. It's the only shield that the red mages get, or item they can get in their shield slot until the very late game when they can get a pro cape. So I just get it for, hey, 2 HP might come in handy sometime, as you saw in some of the early battles. We are out of there. Never to return till our next playthrough.
And the eye is just, they're finally gone.
We might see the eye again. Our friend does show up in the Sky Castle where he's a random wandering enemy. And he is unrunnable there as well, so, I might get a couple more kills in.
You picked a bad time to go on vacation to the Sky Castle?
It's like, finally got away from those guys.
Oh, hey.
Got to go somewhere nice and warm, too, for vacation. The Sky Castle's floating over a desert, so it's got to be warm in there, too.
Let me know when you got a moment to read a couple donations.
Well, let me get the airship, and after that cutscene, I'll be doing a bunch of shopping, so that's probably a good time.
All right.
So here is our faithful, trusty sailing ship with its jaunty sailing tune. And we have loved this thing. It's the only sailing ship in the world. So we're going to park it down here at the very bottom, off in this tile, which you can't even get to without a canoe. Only canoe in the world, probably.
I'm sure those pirates you beat up are probably a little jealous right now.
Well, I mean, now that we're going to get the airship and abandon this whole thing, ocean commerce is just going to grind to a halt. There's no travel. Most people are just trapped in their one little city. Like, they've got all these ports that they've invested in. Their economy is going to collapse. So we are really not good heroes.
They have canoes.
Well, no, we took the canoes.
we also own the only canoe, and now we are going to own the only airship.
Yep. And if you notice in the canoe, there was only one person running or rowing canoe. That was for it.
Yeah, that was Dan.
So here's our cutscene. I'm going to go off and do a bunch of shopping, go back and revisit some of our previous towns now I can buy the spells there. So this is a good time, Ozzy, for some donations if you want to read some.
All right, I got 2 here for you. I got a $40 donation from Anonymous saying, "Love listening to you guys explain as you go." Thank you for that donation. And we also have a $50 donation from Rizu-kun saying, "Put this towards naming Cyan Warmac." He'd like that, yes. I'm sure.
Anything we can do. Warbeck, you are welcome in this speedrun.
Please come out.
Okay, money is not really an objective anymore, so, I could buy a couple more of these things than I could before.
That stack of 99 antidotes is for Doisum.
Yes. Also, it's slightly faster to buy 99 things in this version than the NES version. Which I almost had a separate split for.
Yes. Yeah, playing the NES version as a kid made me very glad that I had an NES Max Turbo controller just specifically for buying heal potions one at a time.
Yeah, if I'm low on the NES version, I have to buy a lot of heal potions. It's almost 2.5 minutes to get to 99. And use all of them in Temple of Fiends Revisited for the NES. Here we just have like a stack of ethers that we'll get, and our white mage will be able to just heal, heal, heal. Here's Bahamut. We gave him, I guess, this crusty old rat tail that was good enough to get some fancy new clothes. So presto changeo, we have changed classes and increased our power infinitely or more.
It's kind of a creative way to censor the crosses out of this version of Bahamut's Cave, too, by making them swords.
Yeah. The original Famicom version, every single one of these is a cross. And so I kind of call it the spot where all the crosses for all Nintendo games are being stored.
These are all the swords that of the warriors that tried to kill me.
Yeah.
Don't even bother.
And the NES version replaces all of them with candelabras, so it's like extremely well lit for a cavern.
Yes.
Bahamut's getting nearsighted in his old age.
Yes.
So we're going to stop by for the caravan. You can actually land directly on top of the caravan in the NES version. They've taken that out, so I have to do a little bit of a walking in the desert. But there is a little bit of a trade-off. So underneath the bottled shop ferry, we got another shop. And it sells some really cool items that only appear here. They are one-time buffs that you can use in battle. I bought the Giant's Tonics, which will increase your max HP temporarily for one battle, 200 extra HP, and the Speed Drinks, which temporarily increase your accuracy. Both of those are going to be used in the Chaos fight. And in previous versions where you had spell slots, you could actually buy spells early before you could even use them. It didn't matter because, you didn't have a spell slot, so, what's the harm of selling you the spells? Here with the MP system, you can't buy spells until you hit the appropriate target level, which is why sometimes I have to revisit even though I have enough cash to do things in the early game. So things like haste would be really nice to get. And, I'd carry it around for a couple levels, but it's a case where you just can't simply buy things until they're ready to be used. I'm just going to stop here and get Thundaga for my red mages, as well as stock up on those ethers that we like so much. Yeah, probably some Phoenix Downs. We'll be using plenty of those.
Potentially even Undan.
I hope not. Dan is very tired. He didn't get his sleep during the eye grind, so he might need it later. So now Gurgur Volcano. This is a much faster dungeon than you might expect from everything you've seen so far. It's because whenever I'm stepping on the lava tiles, it does 1 HP of damage to the party, but you can't get into random encounters. So I've gotten through this place. My best run was a single random encounter on the GBA version. You can actually get 0 random encounters on the PSP version because of the lower encounter rate. Let's see how many we get today. Also, totally nerfed the sound and flashing effects. NES, it's wonderfully visually illustrated. You are definitely walking on lava. This is my favorite floor. It's entirely on fire. Two encounters. You cannot die to lava. You'll be left with 1 HP, but it'd be really embarrassing to die to a random encounter. That room is the home to the Fighting Agamas. They want us to stop in, but we just don't have time.
Agamas, come back!
They just want to be friends.
I want to be friends with them too, but we were friends with the Eye a lot.
I don't know if you can really call that a friendship.
One of us thought it was a friendship.
Yes. No, four of us, and it's majority rules.
Yeah. Okay, so Gurgur Volcano's done.
3, or was it 4 encounters?
I think it was
total?
4 at the end there. And this is the one time in the game where I'm actually at the appropriate level, which means that I will absolutely destroy the boss. So we got Carrie, who's been renamed Marilyn in this version.
Yeah, when I first played these remakes, I picked up that there was a little difference in the music for the Fiends, but it wasn't until Jair pointed it out a while back that it's actually tied to their gender.
Really?
Because I also didn't know that Tiamat was female until fairly recently, too.
I didn't either.
Yep, so you got Lich and Kraken with one theme, and then Carrie and Tiamat with another. You'll hear it better in Temple of Fiends who visited. Hey, Dan.
It begins.
Oh, Dan. doing what your name is an acronym for.
It's-
So once again, we are completely shocked and amazed that we have beat a boss, so we need to go and celebrate. Shock!
I believe they're just shocked that Dan is not with us.
Amazed!
Yay!
Takes a little while to kind of process the two of those.
And this would be the Final Fantasy IV themed optional dungeon.
Yeah, there's two separate tiers of the bosses. So the first time that you fight a boss, you have a choice between... Actually, let me go and get back out before I go and explain that.
Get back up, Dan.
Yeah. But basically, you've got a choice between two bosses on each of the tiers, and they'll have different items throughout. So that's actually the dungeon where you get potentially the fourth ribbon. So they do have 4 ribbons in this version of the game. However, we will only be getting 3 for the speed run. So there is a Dan for the Chaos Battle. So right here now, I'm going to go complete the Bottled Fairy quest, which we started earlier. We need the Bottled Fairy to give us Oxio, which allows us to get
Oh,
to the
that was
sea
a
shrine.
Peninsula of Power.
Oh,
We just flew
good.
over, by the way,
Good.
too. Just had to wave.
Goodbye, Zombles. Goodbye, Trolls.
Yes.
We might see you later. And I could have done this quest early, right when I did the shopping, but I just kind of split up the shopping a little bit so that there's 2 sequences.
I love the subtle sprite detail and just him turning his head.
Okay, I should have enough cash for this.
Speaking of cash,
Do we have some donations?
we have a $255 donation
Nice.
from Vaxer. It's saying, looking forward to many fists.
Thank you, Vexard.
Let's go put some armor on. I'm going to go start selling things to free up a little bit of space in my inventory. There's no limit to things that you can carry, but I need to be able to access items during battles more frequently in the late game. So by selling things, I can do my cursing a little bit faster. So those tents, those are old and cruddy. Potions, don't need those. Gauntlets, yeah, whatever. Alright, that looks good. And here's another point of the game where you have a branching segment. So like earlier when we got the canoe, we had 3 choices. This gives us 2 choices. One to go to the waterfall and one to go to the sea shrine. We need to go through both eventually in order to get to the final Fiends dungeon. But you can do them in either order. And I choose to do the waterfall first for a couple of reasons. I want to get the extra experience for my white mage. Hopefully she gets to 33 naturally without having to do any very last minute catch-up grinding in the sea shrine. But also there's 2 nice items in the waterfall. The Defender's Sword as well as the Ribbon. Ribbon is critical for a lot of the late game bosses, since we don't have a good source of preventing most elemental attacks, except for the Ribbon. And since you guys have donated for Bare Knuckle Chaos, the Defender's Sword is the last sword I will get. There is a Sun Sword, a Vorpal Sword, Excalibur, Mazmoon, but you know, we're not going to really need those.
You're multi-classing in the black belt, that's all. Just the very end.
Here's the Poisonous Nachos.
Oh, I think that last fight you had before that was the first time I ever saw that particular battle background too, with just the river with no waterfall.
Now, there's a couple of random encounters here which are pretty nasty. The one that you definitely don't want to see is gas dragons. It's a 1 in 64 chance. I do have enough HP to survive them, so I'm not like completely worried. The other is nightmares, which we saw back in Ordeals. I now can kill them relatively easily, so I don't have to worry about those tough battles, and it's still very, very hard for us to run away
Yeah,
from
those are some more
nightmares.
Star Ruby junkies trying to beat him up too. There, looked almost the same.
And sadly, we did not get to see the best NPC of the game.
Yes.
In the NES version, there is a bat. I've affectionately named him Out of Bounds Bat because he's the one bat that's not going to get in our way. He's our one true friend of a bat among all bats. But he is so out of bounds in this version, you just can't find him at all. He'd be like right there floating off in the blackness to the southwest of us.
Or maybe he's there, but he just has an
Birds.
entirely black sprite too.
So many birds. Oh, thank God.
Chasing after this robot. I only need one of the gold items in there just to make sure I have enough for buying Hilaga after the Sea Shrine, but robot moved 3 times trying to dodge me.
No wonder he's breaking down.
Yeah, it's the robot from Robotrek. He is pretty broken
but
down.
even after he breaks down, he still keeps moving around too.
I'm not sure if that's Cart 5 or Board, but one of them.
Bug did a real number on him.
I'm gonna have to watch that VOD, you know. Just to make sense of what is you're saying.
I don't know about you, but I'm watching every VOD after I get home.
You're just gonna have a marathon of them.
Something like that.
No sleep.
Yes, sleep.
So I try to stay on the river squares as much as possible because there are unrunnable battles here on the overworld. It's more of those just really random. You would never guess this is unrunnable unless you were told or tried to run away like 10 times.
Yeah, because a lot of unrunnable fights are just basically refights with trap tile monsters that were there as mini bosses earlier in the game. But then there's others that are just unrunnable for whatever reason.
But now it is time for my favorite dungeon. First, we need to talk to Spooky Ghost Mermaid. And she lets us get into the bucket, I mean barrel.
It's a barrel with a porthole and a snorkel.
Yeah.
It's okay, you have Oxyale.
I'm
I've
sure this
always
works.
been a fan of this cutscene too. That's added to the remake.
I like the fish. Just like...
The music that plays here is also unique. This actually plays nowhere else in the game.
Yeah, this is my favorite music track as well as probably my favorite dungeon layout. Like, overall, it is my favorite dungeon in the game. Except for the boss.
Yeah.
I actually got lost here quite a bit.
Yeah, this may look like Ultros on my shirt, but for this particular run, it's cracking.
Don't tease the octopus kids.
Nope. Do not.
Also, don't tease the Nagas. This one opens up with Thundara. You find another Naga in the Sky Castle, and you think, oh man, this one's going to be even more upgraded. But that one just does defensive buffs. So that's like free experience.
Actually, I want to pay attention here because there's one thing you get that I missed.
So I'm only going to get, say, 4 items in this dungeon, plus the slab. The slab, I say. Disregard whatever you may see on your screens. It is the slab.
Do you need to return the slab?
We will be using the slab with Dr. Oon. He's famous. Everybody's heard of him.
Everybody's heard of him. Yes.
He can teach you a new language in minutes.
Mere seconds. So I'm going to grab the diamond armor here. This is the only other armor upgrade I'm getting for the fighter. He last got an upgrade, back in Marsh Cave when we got the iron armor.
Oh, and then I should point out, too, that this teleport spell he's using requires getting the class change in order to be able to use, and that's a huge part of why doing that, what, like 10-15 minute long side quest to get the class change is actually faster overall.
Ideally, it's only like 8 minutes to do the
Oh,
class
okay.
change quest. But then you have the waterfall backtrack. You've got 4 times here in the Sea Shrine. There's just a whole bunch of places where backtracking would otherwise be involving a lot more random encounters. Not that there aren't random encounters coming very, very frequently here. This is one of those weird unrunnables. With Thundaga, it's a lot more of a quick battle. With Thundara, you have to do 2 of them because the Seguin Princes just have enough HP that you can't quite kill them with one.
Yeah. There's also certain equipment that requires class changing in order to actually be able to use too, which makes the end game a lot safer when you can have just better armor overall.
Yeah, so let me talk about why I picked Diamond Armor. I could have picked 2 other armors earlier in the game. There is Flame Armor and Gurgur Volcano, and respectively Ice Armor or Frost Armor in the Ice Cave. Those both are guarded by dragons. The one in Gurgur Volcano is also guarded by an Agama that you have to fight on the way in as well as the way out of that fight. So sadly no Agamas for that. But both of those are good choices for no class change run. However, this one gives me 8 extra absorb for the fighter for his physical attacks, as well as being slightly faster to pick up. However, it's night only, which means I wouldn't be able to use it for a no class change run.
I like how there's like multiple princes for Saga.
Yeah. This is a very royalty-heavy species here.
Ooh, survived Thundaga. That's pretty rare. The other thing I can't use in the no class change run is the Defender Sword. So the last sword I actually get is the Ice Sword. The one I have right now came from Ordeal, so I would instead get the one from Gurgur Volcano. Just enjoy the music. It's the only time you hear more than like 6 seconds of this background track.
Before we rudely interrupted by getting the slab.
Slab.
Yeah, I bet the language learning service would be a lot more successful if they just called themselves Slab instead.
But we've done the first half of the dungeon. We're now going to go down to Kraken. And I'll be keeping an eye on my levels. I want to get 33 on the White Mage. We'll see where she is. I haven't seen if she's gotten 32 yet. I think so. And if I don't have it by the time we get to the ribbon, there is a grind spot which has White Sharks and Seguin Princes in a formation, which is a decent amount of XP for the amount of time it takes to kill them. I'll use that to finish them off. You could chance it to fight with Kraken, but he's really, really good at killing people, so I don't want to do that. It's much worse to get the XP outside. Using Healara and later Healaga is just a faster way of doing recovery if you have lots of people damaged, so I typically wait to get everybody down at least one good heal, and then just heal the party all at once. Alright, there is a really nice item on this floor. It's the Giant's Gloves. You've seen me use temper spells on the red mages, and the Giant's Gloves cast a different spell called Saber. Normally it's Black Mage only, Black Wizard probably, and it's a pretty high level spell.
And it's self-cast only too, which makes it a lot less useful than you'd think it would be.
It is slightly more damage increase than Temper, plus an accuracy bonus. But with this Giant's Glove item, I can then have the fighter buff himself. So that means I'm going to have 3 buffs per round for the remaining bosses.
This music's so nice.
Yes. Got another ribbon there, but like we said earlier, is basically the ultimate defensive item in the game. There's a total of 3 of them that can be gotten along the route, too.
And only Dan will not have one at the end.
Yes.
Oh, sorry for it.
Well, if he wanted to have one, he should have gotten more strong level ups.
Yeah, they were neck and neck up until the eye grind.
And 60 is not too bad of a difference between the two of them. I have had playthroughs where it's like 150 HP difference.
Ouch.
And it's just the randomness of the way that the strong levels distribute their HP gains. It's a lot more of a significant factor in the early game because 25 is just such a big difference.
Just to promote some upcoming incentives, we're still a little short, about $30, to have our runner for for Phantasy Star 4 learn Megid. And I'm probably butchering that,
Yeah,
but it's normal.
Megid is how I've always pronounced it.
Yeah.
Too.
It's basically you never bother to get the most powerful spell in the game. So if you want to see him go out of his way to get this spell and basically nuke everything,
And he'll be using it on the final boss too if he gets it.
so if you want to see that happen, we still got some time for that. As well as there's the glitchless QFG1 EGA run for Quest for Glory. It's after all the series runs, he does a glitchless run of the first game.
It'll be on the original EGA version of the game too. So a very, very blast from the past.
All right, Minwoo, I don't know how you've got so little experience, but Minwoo is still 32, so we need to get probably one or two more of these White Shark battles. Don't ask so many questions.
Send all your questions to here.
There we go, 33, and I need that just to buy Hilaga. And again, I could have chanced it on the Kraken fight, but Kraken is a jerk.
Yes.
Kraken is Kraken.
Kraken wants his seafood soup.
Make calamari out of him.
Really angry at being defeated multiple times in Yokai Watch yesterday.
It was worth it.
Made him angry, Ozzy.
It was worth it, though. He has the best music in the game.
Well, here his dungeon has really good music instead.
And we're going to hear the male theme again, which we have not heard since Lich. Okay, Water Elementals, this is the one unrunnable on this floor. They can come in packs of 1 to 3. If it was more than one of them, I would probably just break out Blizzara, since they're weak to ice. Most aquatic enemies are weak to thunder, but there's a few rare exceptions. Pirates as well as Water Elementals are the two you're probably going to run into. But now you shall see the fully operational power of my fighter.
The sprite animation makes him look like he's trying to be very haughty, and now he's like,
So, what haste does in this game is actually different than what it does in a lot of other Final Fantasies. It doesn't actually make you... Its primary function isn't actually... Ooh, nice hit.
I was going to say, that was goodbye to Fred. I've never seen the miniature
But haste, instead of its primary function being to make you get your turn faster during battle, it actually increases the number of hits you get per attack, which pretty significantly ups your damage dealing power.
Alright, let's see if the tempers go off before the fighter attacks.
Dan, you are so lucky.
This could be a good hit.
Yes. Alright.
yeah! Get wrecked!
Take that, Kraken.
And Dan gets better for
Yeah,
it.
but they did have some nice attention to detail in that Kraken gets 8 attacks per round, being a octopus.
Yeah, Kraken gets 8 attacks per round, 1 for each arm, and Tiamat gets 6 attacks, 1 for each head.
And these are strong hits by Kraken too. So Dan
Well, that was a weak
lucky
hit.
to survive.
That was
Yeah.
How else did Dad live?
And Kraken's not happy about getting beaten like that too,
Yeah.
and he's gonna be back and much angrier.
He will have his revenge.
in the near future.
Here we have a very surprised mermaid.
Shock. So FF5 dungeon is the one where mermaids in, and Gilgamesh is running around chasing after the mermaids, making somewhat suggestive comments about them. So we're not going to go to that dungeon. It is a silly place.
Yeah, I know in the PSP version, the other bosses, I think it's Omega and Atomos, are basically the hardest bosses in the game outside of the Dungeon of Time. Is that true here too?
Yeah, more or less. Like, I think they're probably harder than the Final Fantasy VI bosses. By the way, I walked out of the magic shop before teleporting because teleport very literally takes you to the last location you were, which was right outside the magic shop if I cast it inside.
I swear these look like red 13.
Red 13, Red 13, Red 13 with a cold.
Oh, now we get the scrub and bubbles.
Yeah, Sealaga is a very significant upgrade from Hilara.
We're going to be really making the floor of the Temple of Fiends clean in the near future too.
Alright, this is an unrunnable battle. No idea why.
Yeah, I think they're called Cerberuses in the NES version, just because as a kid I didn't ever think to like increase the battle message speed or anything like that when I played this. So getting like a 4-pack, I think, of those in the volcano, I was looking at like a 3-minute or more long battle if they kept using their Scorch attack to hit my whole party.
Yeah, both them and the Agamas with heat have a pretty good one, and I guess the Chimeras have a blaze attack.
Yeah, I love the animation for that in the GBA version too. So hopefully we'll see it at least once in the tower.
Well, we might see it, but first we need to visit Dr. Oon.
Yes.
The fabulous, world-famous Dr. Oon, who can teach us the little Finnish language in mere seconds with the slab, Dr. Oon, the slab.
Yes.
He's getting forgetful in his old age.
He doesn't even know what it's called, and somehow he can teach us this language. That's how easy it is. And then we're out of here. The blue hair guy likes to walk back and forth, and he'll get stuck in the area walking up to Dr. Oon, so it's another good advantage of class change. It is just NPCs in town.
I really wish you could actually learn the language that fast. That'd be amazing.
So this is
just get yourself a slab in your set.
Yeah.
This is the area of the game where Peninsula Power draws its monsters from. I walk on the lake squares a little bit first because there is the unrunnable
Allosaurus.
The completely inaccurately represented dinosaurs. This is a slight map change. In the NES version, this is solid down the side, but here you can just walk in instead of having to walk all the way around the town. Okay, these guys.
These people, in addition to having a strange language, also built their town in an area that you can't land the airship next to. So,
And in the middle of all of these dangerous monsters, I don't know how they even take one step outside.
Well, they don't take any steps outside. They built the town, so they didn't have to deal with that.
All right, we got through there.
and their houses look like Hobbit Town or something.
That's one of the more obnoxious NPC sequences.
Yes.
There are two back-to-back in a one-tile corridor.
What is with all these strange characters suddenly coming to our town? There's other people, not just us?
Okay, we'll get out of there.
Yep, not anymore.
Not just strange people who understand our language.
this would be the best encounter you could get in the NES version if you're grinding. The Zombles are worth 1,000 experience. The Trolls only about 800. So this is exactly what I would try to manipulate here. You know, I don't really need the XP. We'll be like going from a 33 to maybe 36 by the end game, and almost all of that's going to be just from fighting Monsters in Temple of Fiends. Recommended level for Chaos probably like 50 to 55. Slight geography change, they've moved Mirage Tower down. So you used to be able to see it walking left from the airship. And that throws me off every time because I will walk down south, coming out of Mirage Tower. And then I'll be like, hey, I missed my airship. This is a surprisingly short dungeon for completely different reasons, not the lava tiles this time, but because there are so many shortcuts you can take early on.
Lots of really, really good treasure in here, too, but...
I might skip all of that.
yeah.
You have already what you need. Your fist.
These robots shooting you with a squirt gun.
Normally we can get away from them. There we go. First floor done.
Chad is calling out for Warmech really hard.
Yes.
Come on, guys.
It's coming up, like about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, 3 floors in this dungeon, 5 floors in the Sky Castle. We need to get Warmech on that 5th floor.
Oh, hey, I remember you.
Brought his friends this time.
It's a convention.
Yeah.
People are dying to get into it.
Well, he brought his friends, but I brought the Faraga.
Don't you hate it when you go to a convention and everybody else is wearing the exact same stuff you are?
Oh, here we go. Let's see if they do their fire attack. Well, that one isn't. There we go.
Late.
I just for some reason find it hilarious that the Chimera is just standing perfectly still while it's spraying fire in every possible direction like that.
I'm not sure if I like that one or the one that is the solid column of fire that just moves up and down.
Yeah.
I got a couple donations here. We want to go over them.
Hey, it's a good time for that.
Yeah. Yeah, first of all, we have our favorite donator ever, who's Anonymous, with $10. And we have another donation from Anonymous for $30, simply saying, "Negate hype." So that is exactly enough to make Megid happen now.
Nice.
Awesome.
So Jaseed will be getting in touch with his anger, trying to resolve his anger issues against the profound darkness.
Now, this is another floor where we could take a big shortcut if we don't want the items. There's all kinds of good stuff here. Dragon armor, sun sword, Thor's hammer. Yeah, we don't have time for those, though. Definitely recommend collecting much more treasure in a casual playthrough. Skipping most stuff just because I've got pretty well-defined strategies for the boss fights. And Blue Dragon time. Normally I don't even bother to heal before it, but you know, he's got Thunderbolt, which he'll probably use once, and otherwise you never see this guy in the game. He's got a 1/64 shot of showing up as a random encounter in this tower, and then we're out of here. And 5 levels to go into Warmech.
Yeah. I really like the way this place looks in the remakes, too, where you can actually get a sense that you're floating in the sky, too, instead of like in outer space.
I know a lot of people say that like games like Final Fantasy 6 and 7 really started to push the whole, you know, hybrid of high fantasy with technology, but it's really been prevalent since the very first game.
And if we get Warmech, we will see the highest of high technology.
We will see Magitech before it was cool.
So I'm stopping off here for the ribbon. The Diamond Shield just happens to be exactly on the way, so might as well pick it up. Well, that is the last piece of equipment that I will get in the game. We have one more treasure chest, which is the Elixir by Phantom, and that's because I did not get the Mega Elixir drop.
Everybody's chanting Warmech. Come on.
Warmech, 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 Warmech.
That got the appropriate reaction.
I'm very glad. So this floor is the only one that you have to take advantage of the fact that things wrap around infinitely in the game. You kind of see it in the waterfall in the NES version where you start seeing the entrance all the way from the cube area. But here you have to actually go up and right or down and left or any combination of directions that takes you 2 tiles in each direction off of the starting point. Unlike all the other elementals in the game, elementals you can run from if they're by themselves. Basically, earth, fire, water, by themselves unrunnable. With companions you can run from, and then air elementals you can run from, although you do need a lot of agility because they are fairly fast creatures. I promise we'll get away eventually.
We're just enjoying the cool breeze right now.
It's a whirring fan.
Probably would have been faster to kill them by this point, but hindsight's 2020.
There you go.
All right, let's do it.
Here, guys.
Warmech,
Warmech, Warmech, Warmech, Warmech.
This floor does have the highest encounter rate in
Warmech.
the whole game, I believe, too.
Not gonna look, not gonna look.
Come on, Warmech.
Come on,
No.
come on.
Warmech.
Aww. Not done yet, though. Not done yet.
Come on.
There are encounters behind the Fiend's tile, so, you know,
There is still hope.
small chance.
Some high encounter rate, too, in that bridge. One whole measly encounter. I like that head on the far right, too, by the way. Oh, hey! I'm
How do
here,
you-
too. Hey, guys.
How did you figure out Tiamat was a girl? You can't, like, lift up the skirt and check, you know?
Ooh. Yeah, I think NPCs give it away in the remakes.
Whatever.
Yeah. Like Tiamat, like, stole the castle from whoever lived here before. There is actually a limit to how much stacking you can do of Temper, but the only battle where that's actually going to potentially happen is Chaos. Well, it actually will, because of doing Bare Knuckle.
Yeah, I mean, I get pretty close in these Fiend fights, like 7 Tempers, including the Giant's Gloves is normally enough. But it's just like over that round, so you don't really see like the after effect.
There you go.
All right, I'm gonna heal up and save after this battle.
Yes.
Warmech, Warmech. Come on, one more time, guys. We can do
Let's
this.
do
Oh,
it.
look at this. They're taking a few steps forward for him for free.
Cheaters!
It's one tile we can't get Warmech on, guys. Come on.
And this is only in the remakes, too. In the NES version, you Yeah, there's no encounter tiles between the Fiend's Orb and the exit.
It's also very predictable when I would get Warbeck because it's doing encounter manipulation for that run. So instead of hoping for Warbeck in the NES version, you very deliberately do not want to fight him.
Yes.
Not sure why there's a Lufini in here.
You know, whatever.
All right, let's do it. More mech.
War mech, 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 war mech. Hurry, get
Come on, let's heal.
He's stalling.
Yes.
Just
All
prepare
right.
yourselves.
Reset and try again.
I have never gotten Warbeck in a speed run. Ever. Dozens and dozens of playthroughs.
It is going to happen when you're on like a 10-minute PB pace.
So since we forgot to get Excalibur, we're going to just go to the final dungeon now.
Yes.
Saves about a minute not to get it. We didn't want to visit those
We
dwarves.
don't need weapons where we're going.
Where we're going is 2,000 years into the past. It finally explains something about the plot of the game.
Just even figuring, I mean, especially in the NES version, even figuring out where you're supposed to go after you've killed all the fiends is something that you can miss too.
Yeah, there's a place in the Sky Castle with there's a window, and it'll point you to the Temple of Fiends there.
I did get a kick out of when I finally, because I think I played a decent chunk of the game before I saw the world map that came with it for the first time, and then noticing that the Temple of Fiends is exactly in the middle of the map, and that the Fiends dungeons are in the four corners of the world.
Okay, this floor I'm going to use a technique called save scumming. There is pretty much encounters with frost dragons that will demolish this party. Packs of 3 and 4, and on the top floor you get gas dragons, which are the same thing. Yeah. So let's watch this once.
Yeah.
Rip.
They'll do this 8 times before I get to go. So, yeah.
Snowface.
Yeah, and that was an ambush too, so that was really fun.
Purple Worm. This guy's unrunnable, but he's a good source of experience. And since I took a lot of steps, you know, I want to save that progress for the next bit of scumming. We can see the stairs already. So tempting. Ah, we made it. Here's Grass Dragon territory. Yeah. That one's actually unrunnable, so you do have to kill them to get out of that battle. Frost Dragons you just simply can't run from because they have such high agility, you'll never encounter it. They've actually got the same agility as Nightmares, which is why you just don't run from those either.
No thanks.
Yep, pass. That's not even the full pack, I can come in 4s.
4 more reasons to leave.
Well, he's saved scumming through dragons. Do you want to give a quick plug for the prizes for this run, Ozzy?
Yeah, we got some cool stuff for you guys. We got a little bit of, I'd say, 20 minutes so left of the run here. This would be the perfect opportunity to get another chance at a shot of a copy of this game, Final Fantasy 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls on the Game Boy Advance. This would also, if you donate at least $10, you'll put you in the running for that, as well as it'll put you in the running for a Final Fantasy IX Steam Key, as well as a Final Fantasy Bomb Perler. And I believe, yes, the German Final Fantasy IX Strategy Guide as well.
And then that was Phantom.
Yeah, Phantom.
I'm already blanking on what it's called in the NES version.
Yeah,
So.
He's really, really short in this one. If you've got Excalibur, Excalibur is equivalent to the enemy weakness for all possible types, so fire, ice, lightning, giants, dragons, aquatic enemies, werewolves, magic enemies, like all of it. So it's a really nice sword there, but since I don't have Excalibur, I use Faragas as a backup, which makes it a pretty easy fight. I used to just try to like temper up the fighters, but then it's relying on the tempers going before the fighter attacks.
You might also learn how to play a lute somewhere.
Yeah.
That was never mentioned.
Yeah, we just bashed the tablet open with the lute.
Yeah.
It's like, it worked for the Earth Rod.
Yeah. John Belushi had his way with that.
We miss you, John Belushi.
So another chance at a Mega Elixir here since he picked up the Elixir before, which is his replacement for it. That increases the drop rate for Mega Elixirs.
By 1,000%. As well as evidently the encounter rate for these guys. No Mega Elixirs today.
Mega Elixir, if anyone isn't familiar, is a it's like an elixir as far as full HP MP recovery, but it's the whole party.
Yeah, it's pretty much the best recovery item in the game, and you can actually get them from winning the 15 puzzle first place prize. I was going for the second place prize because of the emergency exit. And that's actually a slightly faster strat to do the emergency exit. The Mega Elixir equivalent is all skill instead of RNG, but it's like 2 minutes slower if you happen to get the emergency exit. Last bit of saves coming. We're back in Frost Dragon territory. Loops around, going up to the top floor, then back down to the bottom.
Hey,
Preemptive!
there
Yes! The only good kind of Frost Dragon.
Yes. You can always run, even if an enemy has super high agility, if you've got a preemptive attack. And I'm not sure if that's the worm's tongue or he's just really, really drooling out the side. Either way, I don't want to be near this guy.
Yeah.
Truly.
I think I think it's drool, and that's why we need some scrub and bubbles on this temple.
They do the work so you don't have to.
We'll be seeing a lot of those when he refights the fiends. Those dragons really, really want to tell you to chill out.
I mean, they're a very high encounter rate on the floor because multiple of the enemy templates are just Frost Dragons. So there's a fixed probability associated with each of a couple of different slots for fighting monsters. So if they want to get a monster to have a non-standard probability, they'll just assign it to multiple of those. And so Frost Dragons, they'll show up really, really frequently as a result.
Yeah, so once he's into the kind of basement levels of the Temple of Fiends revisited, every remaining floor is themed after one of the elements, and then it ends with, well, not ends, but it features a refight with one of the fiends who's been souped up quite a bit since the first go.
It starts with ending with them, and then it gets more and more obscure when they have placed this trap tile that you'll have to fight a boss on. So in the NES version of the game, there was a very different strategy at this point. You had to conserve your MP very strictly, as well as your healing items, since you only had 99 potions, as well as a limited number of Cure 2s. And you didn't have lives or ability to resurrect characters, so instead what we did was intentionally get the Red Mages turned to stone, and there was a party of Red Mage in the NES case. And that way they could survive Lich's big attack, which is Nuke. You turn them back to normal with Gold Needle, which you actually do have an item for. This version, we don't have to worry about it so much. Of course, the guy that flees is the one that goes first. But Lich really likes to use magic, and his first magic spell is going to be Nuke. So I'll do a preemptive heal.
Which is the strongest attack spell in the game.
But after he does that, it's nothing. Well, he could kill for it because, you know, Dan.
Yes. Or not. I think that's like 1 out of 4 chance, I think, for him to not use Nuke.
Yeah, it's a pretty high chance. We'll use Healag again, you know. If it keeps him from using nuke, that's good too. There it is. Boom. This actually does a lot less damage than the NES version does too. I've seen nuke do like in the 300s. I think you could do max 360 in the NES.
Best cure for nuke though, scrubbing bubbles.
Yeah. Six. 75. Let's see what the fighter can do. Another 6. Oh, Giant's Club. That's why it's... I've been holding down A and not paying attention. Well, he is really buffed now.
Poor Dan.
Oh, Dan.
All right. Bam.
1984. That's a little bit better.
Good book too.
He dropped his contact lens. He's looking for it right now. Oh, let's go.
There we go. Nice work.
Yeah, there's a lot of places in the game where I do memory cursor.
Oh, you don't want to step backwards after you kill Lich, by the way, too.
That's the other thing. Like, just like we did refights
Agamas!
on zombie dragons and on Eye, you can refight the fiends if you want to.
In case you getting nuked once just wasn't enough.
In case you want him to hit the other side or something. Please.
Is this a good time for a donation?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Alright, I got another $10 from Anonymous. Thank you very much. And we have a $30 donation from Elian saying, "Hi from France. Thanks to all the team for organizing such a cool event. Good luck for all the upcoming runs." And just a quick reminder that this is all going to NAMI, the National Alliance Against Mental Illness. It's a great cause, guys, and we all want to see this marathon be a big success for them. So let's keep it coming.
Those Agamas are just so unhappy that you neglected them in the volcano.
I mean, they're following me around, they're jumping on our backs, and...
They even brought their pal Fire Gygus there.
I wish you could get some of these formations in the actual volcano area, because then grinding would be much more efficient on 4 Agamas. That would be even better than things like the high grind. Sadly, you can't get most of the good formations until you get to Temple of Fiends, but then it's pretty much too late. So besides scrubbing bubbles, it's also very important to have good dental hygiene, so you see all of our mages are brushing their teeth. We've been polishing this floor.
It's a very nice floor.
Like, look, that white mage is making sure that floor is absolutely clean.
Immaculate.
I want to be able to eat off that floor.
Well, brush your teeth. Slight difference. They both have the number 5 somewhere in their damage totals.
Again, don't back up. Jeez, you have so many ethers.
They're so cheap.
Yeah, they cost the same as high potions in this game. Not so in, like, FF4.
FF4, you don't really have money problems in that game either.
No, no. For a very different reason.
It's like elixirs, I'll take 50.
Yep. When you're only meant to be able to afford, like, maybe 1 with that money you have at the time.
Maybe.
Those trolls still looking for some aspirin.
So the one unrunnable on this floor, water elementals, they can now come up in packs of, I think, 7? I think it's 3 to 7 in here, so this is definitely where you want Blizzara. Before it was just kind of convenience because they'd only be at most 3 of them at a time. And they are very, very difficult to hit since they've got good evade. There they are. I knew I couldn't get through one run without seeing these guys.
You're using the ice spell on them?
Yep, they are weak to ice. Them, Kaizakus, and a couple of enemies in the river area are. Everything else aquatic is weak to thunder instead.
Huh.
Well, you're kind of freezing them into ice cubes, after all. Alright, now it's time for certain octopus to try to get his revenge.
Don't tease the octopus, kids.
No,
Please, nobody in the room tease the
no.
octopus. Who teased the octopus?
Well, not Dan, unfortunately.
So this is his best attack overall. It gives you darkness, which actually does something in this game. Unlike the earlier version, which was bugged, one of the only bugs that you would find. You get a reduction in your accuracy in addition to the cool sunglasses. It's a relatively minor effect, though. But another point for the NES version was this guy could hit for more than 999 damage. And it does display correctly in the NES version, despite everything else being capped at 3-digit displays. So the one thing that worked is the damage displays on Kraken.
But yeah, it's Kraken's physical attack is by far most dangerous move.
5, 6, are we getting to 7? No, 1988.
Hey Jar, do you mind if I pop in for a quick announcement?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to let you guys know, we did have some kind of misleading indications that the PayPal issues were completely resolved, but it looks like what's happening is just some of the donations are getting through at this point. So definitely still try if you'd like to get a donation through, because we really do appreciate your support. And if you can't get it through, please stick around and please be patient with us. We have the director of NAMI Utah working with us, and we're in communication with PayPal to try to get this resolved.
Yeah, there's a decent sword on this floor, but you guys have paid me not to get that.
Yes. Yeah, the Masamune, which in this game any character can equip. So it was kind of debatable for me if I wanted like a fighter to equip it, so that my strongest sword user, or my white mage, so that she'd have something to do when she's not casting healing spells.
And I always put it on the white mage, and it's like, that was maybe not the best of ideas. Like when you get to Chaos in the NES version, it's just a damage race, so you want to have all of your buffs hasted fighter with Masamune, hopefully doing as much damage as you can before he does Cure 4. Or Nuke.
Or both.
Or both, yeah.
Yes.
We almost saw last year.
Yes. Thankfully did not.
I still think I would have survived it.
I'm glad we didn't have to put that to the test, though.
Only a 30-minute time loss if it goes wrong.
Yes.
Well, here we can save right before Chaos, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, this could kill for it. Yeah, nap time. It's been a very long game.
Dan forgot his gas mask.
Alright. One more boss to go. One more boss to go.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah, and we have reached the required donations to see this boss get punched in the face really hard.
Go for a TKO.
We will Mike Tyson this boss.
I still feel so bad that we're calling my friend Bird Dan all the time.
Okay, no more encounters on this floor. Original Famicom version actually did have encounters. They were from the top levels of the dungeon. Couple ethers. Don't want to run out of MP, even though we will during the fight.
All right.
It's your time to shine. But with your bare hands.
Go get him!
So that is 4 statues of the Fiends. They're not the highest quality statue maker made these.
Well, it was 2,000 years in the past.
That is
it
pretty
was
primitive.
a bit, yeah.
So yeah, like we said a couple hours ago, Chaos has 10 times as much HP and twice as much attack power as in the NES version. And a lot of the routing that Gyre did for this version of Final Fantasy is specifically designed around setting up this fight.
Okay, Frit might survive this. Also, Chaos has all these cool attacks that take a lot of time, plus a rocking boss theme. Close.
Yeah, so those Giant's Tonics give him an extra 200 max HP, which just makes if Chaos does AoE attacks multiple turns in a row, it makes it more likely that he'll be able to survive.
Well, some of us will survive.
Yeah, yes. I don't know about Dan for it.
I'm hopeful.
Come on, come on, come on! Oh!
Yeah! Gotta believe!
It's the Danimal!
Yes. And for his buffing pattern in this fight, he's going to be using both Temper, like a lot of the other fights, but also Speed Drinks, which increase the accuracy stat and and increase the number of hits you land per turn. And for meaning more damage.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried here because Minwoo is not doing a lot of healing. So normally it's in the high 200s, so hopefully we don't run into problems with this.
Minwoo just got bad stat growth.
I'm going to guess on the intelligence stat.
Yeah.
Has Chaos used any spells yet? I think I've only seen specials.
Specials and physical attacks.
So far.
With this, I'm going to pretty much have caught up with my healing. So we're in a little bit of a better spot.
This fight is just so different every run, too, as far as just what he does.
So let me heal the White Mage. Okay, there's Blizzaga. Now we're going to be caught up with our healing after this.
I mean, his spells, that his damage-dealing spells overall are a little weaker than his elemental specials, but every time he casts his spells in a fixed order, and when he gets to his 4th spell, it's going to be Curaga, which unfortunately doesn't heal him completely to full like it does in the NES version, but because it's capped at 99.99, but that's still a lot. That does extend the fight fairly significantly if he does it. And if he gets to 8 spells, then it'll be Nuke. Which, fortunately, because of the giant strengths, isn't like a deal breaker if he does it.
Yeah, Earthquake would have killed for it possibly. This is Earth-based instant death, but you know he's already taken a nap, so he didn't feel it.
He was staring down the abyss.
It's like, what's going on down there? Okay, let's see where we are on our fighter. Chaos is wrapped around to the beginning of his specials again.
That's a long animation.
It's a long fight.
Yes. All right.
We need more, though. We need more.
Yes. There's plenty more where that came from.
Hit him hard.
So this is eventually going to increase his attacks per round.
Yeah, we do not want him to do that on the fighter, too.
Yeah.
Because
One of the reasons I moved him to the back, in addition to getting him out of the way for Chaos's physical attacks, is slow rough. Okay, White Mage out of MP here, so we're going to Elixir her.
And he's timing it too, so that at right as the White Mage runs out of MP, he'll immediately she gets Elixir, and then can immediately start healing again in the next turn. Because yeah, running behind on healing is how you lose this fight.
Very quickly.
It's fairly secure once he gets started and gets the giant strengths and gets caught up, basically. But yeah, if he runs out of MP, then it'll be over pretty fast.
$18 hits.
Nice punch.
Hit it very hard.
Okay, he's getting close to Kiraja.
So I think I think he's at full now.
Pretty much.
So
So let's say 20, 18,000 left to go.
Doing bare-knuckled strats, that was pretty much inevitable that he was going to do it too, just because of how much extra buffing you have to do.
I have had so many fights where he does nothing but specials or nothing but physical attacks that he rarely gets to Kiraja. Okay, let's say 15,000 remaining. $12,000.
L4 uses his Fist of Fury.
Okay, now Chaos is getting a lot more dangerous now with haste. 9,000 to go. So his physical attacks are going to be even more deadly. See that he's already doing like half of our HP. So get ready on time here. Getting pretty close.
Oh!
Ow.
The fighter dying is really
Really
bad,
bad.
because then he loses his buffs. Alright, just needs to not get punched now.
Survive anything but a punch. Okay.
Alright.
Need, I think, one more hit.
Oh! He tried, but it wasn't
Time! Chaos knew he had to stop him.
He knew what was coming.
Yeah, you knew the dangerous one there. So, trolled a little bit early game, but that's how the fights tend to go. I actually have the typical playthrough. Look at my splits. It goes like -5 minutes, +5 minutes, -5 minutes, +12 minutes. It's like all the random encounter luck as well as the HP growth and the stat effects are one of the more random games overall.
And then whether or not you get the emergency exit, too.
Yeah, so even though this has your ability to save anywhere, lots of good buffing items, it's almost as marathon unsafe as the NES version was, but not quite.
Because at least in this version, you don't lose 30 minutes from
If
chaos.
you die to chaos, yeah.
Kraken 2 was the one I really worried about for the NES one. Until I had a good strategy on him, he'd actually killed me more times than Chaos had. Because he just needs to get 2 physical attacks in on the red mages. Well, are you ready to set up for our next game?
Yeah, and that next game is going to be Phantasy Star 4 on the Mega Drive.
Okay, Religion is
/
telling me we
Genesis.
should enjoy the ending credits thoroughly. Well, let's read the plot of Final Fantasy. This is the first time that you actually find out what's going on. There is no NPC hints or dialogue or text or whatever. You get a little bit when you talk to Chaos, like he tells you, hey, he's Garland from the future, the Fiends have been sending him back in time. And then there's like 20 paragraphs of text telling us all about the courageous sacrifice that Frit made. And the Light Warriors, all 3 of them, returned to the future, where nobody remembered what happened to the other one. Just left that one behind.
All carrying orbs, lukewarm with destiny.
Thoroughly lukewarm with destiny. Yeah, one of the things they did with change was orbs became crystals in this version, like they did in all of the later Final Fantasy
They're
games.
still lukewarm with destiny.
They're
though.
still lukewarm with destiny, though. Garland waiting for a rematch. I think we can take him with a Giant's Glove.
In
Now-
your fists.
I might even let the White Mage do it.
This really was inspired by D&D. You class changed right at the final boss.
Yeah. Yeah, we took a couple of levels of Monk. And without the incentive to do the no weapons, I can typically get Chaos down before the White Mage runs out of MP. You get a little bit of a starting advantage for your tempers, as well as a big advantage in terms of accuracy. So it cuts out like 3 or so rounds of buffs. And just as you get further into the further fight, Chaos gets a lot more unpredictable, as well as once he gets that haste off, his physical attacks go from being okayish to being incredibly deadly. I'm glad I put the extra speed drink on the fighter. I don't normally do that. So he'd only have like 600 and some HP, which is about as much as damage as Chaos will do with a single hit.
Well, considering it brought him under 200 HP.
Yeah.
I was surprised that Dan got a Giant's Tonic, too.
He had more than 350. If he doesn't, I just go for the haste at the start. It's like, at least do something.
He tried so hard.
And Chaos has got enough agility that very rarely do you go before he does. So that Red Mage is just completely out of luck. Same thing with the White Mage. One of the things I time rate on is having the White Mage go last in the round. She's got the worst agility of the party. So normally the damage will happen, then the heal will get us back up to full. And I could decide if I want to do like Kiraga with the Red Mage. Maybe if I stopped and got an extra elixir or X potion or something like that, I could have another backup on there. So you've got ways of kind of making sure that the fight is a little bit recoverable back into a good spot. But this is how it typically works out, and I was just hoping it wasn't going to be the marathon luck.
You ever had the White Mage somehow go before Chaos?
I have had the White Mage go before Chaos. It's like 1% chance, if that. You just lose your Healaga for the turn. And normally you're down a little bit at the beginning of the round, so, it's just a slight loss and you'll have to catch it up in the following rounds. Yeah, but I was disappointed no Warmax. Sorry, Poexel, sorry, Village. You guys didn't believe enough.
No.
We really want to.
We may
The chat really.
and we
wanted
may
one
see Cyan named Warmac
Yeah.
at least, if that holds up.
He may see many things
That's
named
a
Warmac now.
That is a $50 stand right now for Warmac as Scion. So
I think we can name other things in the remainder of the marathon Warmac to satisfy us, not
Yes.
having seen Warmac in this round.
I have never gotten Warmac.
Even in like a casual playthrough? Or?
When I go deliberately in like the dungeons where you can actually fight him as a regular enemy, yes, but never there. And all the encounters are out of 64 for the Divisor, and Warmack's not even the rarest, which is the 1 in 64 encounter. He's actually more than 1 in 64. So I fought more than 64 speedruns through here, and still no Warmacks. I tried. We were going around. I did stutter stepping in case it increases the encounter rate.
That might have decreased the counter rate.
You took your time in the menu to RNG manipulate them a little bit.
They still shouted out Nasir, I see, even in Remake.
Yeah, they kept the original cast credits.
Which one of those is the Ghost Mermaid, though?
The one on the dock in the blue dress. She just said she wanted to give the barrel to the mermaids. They could use it as like an amusement park.
I still always call it the bucket from Chrono Trigger.
Yep.
It's about as well sealed as the bucket, so it's a good thing you can breathe underwater.
Just get a really casual warning that you probably shouldn't go in there. Nothing to stop you, though. No, like, hand railings or anything.
Just a post-it note.
Just a mermaid saying, "Hey, watch out."
Enter at your own risk. Bring Oxio.
Alright. I guess I got a couple donations I could probably read off right now. Yeah. We've got $5 from Anonymous. Saying, great cause, also very much hoping for the win. We have a $50 donation from Anonymous saying, Final Fantasy hype! Blind loot is best loot. Yes, indeed. And we also have a $5 donation from Cosmic the Dolphin.
Cosmic.
Yes. We'll be here and to run the aptly named Saturday morning RPG on Friday morning this week.
Yes. He says, guess what I'm doing right now? Hacking.
Yes.
Which means I have to unplug my key. We also have a $3.53 donation from Anonymous. And an additional $20 donation from Anonymous saying, gotta meet that Quest for Glory 1 EGA goal. Thank you very much. And lastly, we have a $5 donation from Fryleo. Sorry, that's a hard one for me. Much love from a bipolar girl, French girl. It's thanks to people like you that I can hope someday living with mental illness becomes even easier.
Well, thank you to all of our donors. Whether you have been able to successfully get through our PayPal issues, I'm sure that'll get fully corrected in the near future.